All right, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Irish Breakdown podcast. I am Vince D'Addario. I am the football analyst here at irishbreakdown.com. That guy right there is Brian Driscoll. He is the publisher at irishbreakdown.com. And it's Friday. It's a Friday free-for-all mailbag. We're not really going to talk about what you guys think we're going to talk about. So I'm just going to kind of throw it to Brian to kind of kick us off and get us started.
Look, y'all, I told y'all on Tuesday night when we met that I was not going to talk about the last head football coach anymore. Okay. He's gone. He's down in Baton Rouge. And so he's a thing of the past. So I'm going to honor my word and I'm only going to talk about the present and the future. I was upstairs having breakfast with my family and I decided that we were going to talk a lot. We're going to have some fun today. Okay. And I'm going to get a little petty. All right. So, bless my heart, but I'm just going to be a little petty today. So hope y'all appreciate that and hope y'all a little patient with me. But we're going to have some fun today because really from the moment I got up this morning and just saw the beautiful sun out there in South Bend, Indiana, I just really felt like it's going to be a great day. And then I got on Twitter and for the first time in my life, I've enjoyed Twitter the last 24 hours because it's been pretty brilliant. And then I saw something this morning that just had me ready to run through a wall, Vince, just ready to run through a wall. Okay. And we're going to play that for everybody this morning. And that's how we're going to start the day. We're going to start the day with a little bit of fire. Vince, are you ready for some fire?
Always.
Oh, okay. Look now, here we go. We're going to get y'all fired up and ready to go. And it's going to be a real fun show. And I promise y'all, I'm going to sound a little bit different next time I come back and talk to y'all. Okay. So bless your heart. Thank you so much for being with me. And we're going to let Coach Bayless kind of take it over from here. All right, y'all? Oops, I did it wrong. I'm so silly. I got to do this differently this time. My bad, y'all. I got to make sure there's some sound. Otherwise, it's going to sound real stupid. Okay, here we go. Let's get this thing. I'm going to go full screen, Vince, and we're going to have some fun. Go Irish.
We're extremely proud of you guys on your focus and your ability to lock in all week long this week, okay? It was awesome to see, awesome to be a part of. It shows who you are, your DNA, your mental toughness, your physical toughness, the way you compete, the way you care about each other, okay? That's what this team run is going to be about, competing, getting after it with mental and physical toughness, and being the best in the country at what we do. So we ready to do that? Yes, sir. All right, so what I'm going to do now, okay, because you're brand new head football coach.
Okay, the best part of that is they weren't quite sure how to act when he first comes through the. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Marcus Freeman era is official at the University of Notre Dame. Or is it Notre Dame? I can't remember. I've heard it twice.
Depends on if you're
that
in
way.
South Bend or South Bend.
Right. So this is obviously this is how I kind of woke up this morning, right? Like, because I didn't go to bed till like 6 a.m. last night, so I slept in a little bit today, and that's what I saw when I first got up. So it there's a lot of fired up people. A lot of fired up people. And the last 24 hours on Twitter have just been freaking awesome.
They've been fantastic. Let me also say this. I have been very critical of locker room videos, being on Twitter and being for public consumption and all that. I'm all for it now, at least for this particular moment in time.
Yeah,
I am all for it because if that doesn't illustrate why Marcus Freeman was the right man for the job right now, then nothing else does.
Wonderful segue, Vince.
Thank you.
Wonderful segue. And here's the reason why it's a wonderful segue. That is Marcus Freeman talking to the football team for the first time as the head football coach at the University of Notre Dame. So
look, whenever he's done with his coaching career, which as a Notre Dame fan, as somebody who covers the team, I hope is like decades from now, he is going to make a killing in the motivational talk, but motivational speech.
He's going to be doing that beforehand. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
first time he has a winning season, people are going to be lining up to.
I mean,
there's no question.
Man, I get infatuated every time I hear him talk. I'm just taking it in. He could be talking about, you could just substitute the word, football and like things like that for whatever line.
I'm sorry, what did you say? Did you say football?
Football.
Okay.
Maybe I did. Well, I've been hanging around Southern people for a while, so it just happens.
And I got to put this up. My man Tommy Davidson. This is my guy. Tommy is country through and through. I love Tommy. He said, "Did you make fun of my accent?" Because Tommy has a. So just so y'all know, there's going to be a couple times I explain. So I called a buddy. Sean Davis called earlier today, and when I answered the phone, I talked like I talked at the beginning of the show, and of course, just lost it. And my wife was dying. The problem is, I actually used to have a tad Southern accent, like Southern Virginia Southern, not like Savannah, Georgia. Legend of Bagger Vance Southern. So they're when I talk like that for a while, sometimes a couple words do kind of it takes me a while to get back into my normal voice. So I'll try not to do that too much. But Tommy has a real Southern accent. I love Tommy. Tommy's my guy. I've known Tommy a long time. Tommy showed me around when Notre Dame played the Music City Bowl in 2014. Tommy showed me around, and real good dude. So thank you for that super chat, Tommy.
Yeah,
I appreciate you, buddy.
That is huge.
But I wasn't making fun of your accent. I was making fun of. I was just showing what it sounds like when Northern people try to use fake Southern accents. I don't know why I did that today. I just felt like doing that today. So
it was great, though.
I appreciate you. But Vince, let's get started, man. This is a mailbag. So we had a little bit of
all
fun.
The way to the top.
We played a couple things, but today is Mailbag Friday, so we're gonna get rolling.
All right, I'm starting right at the top, Brian. We had questions coming in a half hour before we went even on the air, which is awesome. So John gets the first question of the day. What will this new staff need to do to help improve the timing of the offensive line in the run game leading up to the bowl game?
I mean, it's really just about repetition and just emphasis. That's going to be the thing for Tommy Rees and Jeff Quinn and the rest of the offensive staff. It's the repetition, right? And this is one of those times where, because you're going to have 15 practices before the first game, I'm a big believer that first week is just about take your basics, right? What are your 3 basic run plays, and just run the heck out of them. Just run them, and then it's Perfection Tuesday, right? I mean, those are like, that's kind of like or Perfection Thursday, right? That was kind of a thing. It's a couple of places I was at, we would do, because, by Thursday, it's about, you've got the game plan. Now it's about perfecting it, right? And it's just about just getting a mindset right. You don't, obviously, you're not going to always be perfect, but you want that mindset sinking in. And so that's going to be the key, is just reps. I would rep the heck out of inside zone. I'd rep the heck out of my outside zone, and I'd rep the heck out of my counter play. And that's really just what you do. And the more you do it, and then just emphasize the fundamentals, the technique of it. That's going to be a big part of it too. And I think if they can do that, then we're going to see some success with this group.
No question. It's going to be fun to watch. That is for sure. John, with the next question as well. He says, will Lance Taylor coach both running backs and wide receivers leading up to the bowl game? If so, pros versus cons.
My understanding is Del Alexander has not left Notre Dame yet. I mean, he is. My understanding is all the coaches are going to be coaching the bowl game,
right,
other than the guy that was the head coach before.
Right.
So I believe it was Tim Priester yesterday reported that Brian Poling was going to take the head coaching job at Lafayette College, which is in the Patriot League. It's a 1AA school in eastern Pennsylvania, close to where I used to coach at Muhlenberg. So it's like kind of in that same Lehigh Valley area. But I would still imagine Brian Poling is going to be coaching the special teams for the bowl game. I mean, there's no reason he wouldn't. So I think the coaching staff is going to stay intact unless they somehow get new jobs between now and then, which could happen. And if that's the case, you'll probably see like a GA step up, something like that. Tommy Rees and Lance Taylor will both play a role. You could also see, honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to allowing like a GA to coach the running backs and have Lance Taylor coach the receivers. Because we've talked about this before. Lance Taylor was a receiver and has coached receivers in the National Football League. He could clearly coach the receivers for Notre Dame, period. I mean, just moving forward, if they wanted to move him, so what we talked about the other day, right? Like, that's the beauty of Lance Taylor. If you have a chance to bring in a great running backs coach who can, a great recruiter as a running backs coach, or a great running backs coach who's also a great recruiter, whatever the case may be, you can move Lance Taylor out to receiver, and that's an upgrade. I mean, it's an upgrade in every capacity, so it does. And so, but it also allows you to obviously use him for a bowl game should something happen, because you could get a GA to coach running backs. I mean, look, I coached running backs. My first full-time job was as a running backs coach, and I had an All-American and all-conference kids and all that kind of stuff. It's just, look, here's the basic stuff. Focus on the fundamentals and don't screw it up. Once he gets the ball in his hand, let him go be an athlete. I mean, It's not that it's easy. No coaching job is necessarily easy. It all requires skill. But of all the position coaches in football, that is the easiest to coach for a young coach because
Agreed.
there's just a lot less technique and fundamentals involved compared to a receiver, or an offensive lineman, or a quarterback even. So that's hopefully that answered your question.
Rye says, with the new head coach, does that open up the opportunity for to more time with assistant coaches being interviewed during the week and after games like other universities do? I don't really. Can you help me understand this question? Is he talking about the coaches that are trying to find jobs elsewhere?
Yeah, I'm trying to look. With the new head coach, does that open up the opportunity to more time with assistant coaches being interviewed during the week and after games? Like, I honestly don't. I'm not sure I understand the question.
So, Rye, throw kind of an explanation down at the bottom. Brian be at the bottom, and if you throw an explanation down there, we'll come back to it and answer it. Okay, because we want to answer your question. I'm just not really sure.
Yeah,
where you're headed with that one. Scott says, always wanted to ask this question. What do you think the state of Notre Dame football would have been if George O'Leary wasn't fired? No Tyrone Willingham and Charlie Weiss, most likely. Thoughts? Go Irish. Pumped for the future.
that's a really good question, Scott, because George O'Leary would have been brought on in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
What I think we would have seen was George O'Leary be the up version of Bob Davie, right? Because Bob Davie had some up years and some down years, right? And the up years were, they're pretty solid. He couldn't beat the big teams, but he couldn't beat then they'd have the next year they'd go like this, right? And same with Charlie. Charlie had a couple good years and then went down. I think he would have been pretty steady, like 8-9 wins a year.
I agree.
On that veteran team, and I think he probably would have coached 8-9 years, and then we still would have seen a guy like Brian Kelly come in. But then Brian Kelly would have had a better foundation to build upon. He would have left it in a much better situation than what Ty Willingham and Charlie Weiss and Bob Davie left it. That's what I think.
I agree.
Bless you, Vince.
Thank you. That's like snuck up on me, and there might be some more in there. All right. I'm going to put this up here. Why didn't BK have an Irish accent when he coached here? That's pretty good.
Well, he tried the whole Notre Dame thing, but look, I'm not going to talk about that guy anymore.
Yeah. John just peppering with the questions early on. He says, how do you as a staff work on improving the tight end blocking so Tommy Rees has a full playbook for the bowl game to work with?
I think the tight end blocking has gotten – Vince, I don't know if you agree with this, but I think the tight end blocking has gotten better. It's still not great, but it's definitely gotten better as the season has gone on. And I expect that just to continue to get built on. So it's just about for offensive, it's like it's really just about keep building on what you've been doing and then just get better at it and better at it and better at it. I think those are the things. And I think the other thing, too, that helps a lot of times for a bowl game is that you get that extra time off to really kind of like right now this week, all they're doing is with Matt Bates. They're just with Matt Bates.
Yeah, it's just working out. Yeah,
right. And that's gonna help this team. So Rye did respond, Vince, with the follow-up. So, again, we apologize, Rye. It's not that your question wasn't bad because a couple other people thought they knew what you were talking about. I just wasn't sure.
This makes a lot more sense. He says, during the season, we don't hear from assistant coaches, and only before the season, I'd like to hear and get to know more assistant coaches and what they see in game. I think that's a great question because that is – I don't want to say it's unique to Notre Dame, but it was definitely unique. It's definitely what they did here.
Yeah, it's not unique to Notre Dame because, like, we don't ever hear Alabama's assistant coaches talk, right?
True.
I mean,
true.
I think that's more of an old school coach type of thing where you want the message to be unified. The best way to have a unified message is for the head coach to talk. Remember, Brian Kelly allowed assistants to talk at the beginning of his tenure, and some really weird stuff came out, right? Like Charlie Molnar's little immature shots at Dane Christ, right? And Bob Diaco just anytime he talks.
Yeah, he's just weird.
But I would like see here's the interesting thing for Marcus Freeman is, do you apply the things you felt should have been done for you as an assistant? Do you now apply those as a head coach? Right.
Sure.
So like if you felt like I didn't really get a chance to to be in front of the camera a whole lot as an assistant, which meant, my marketability of trying to let people know who I am and branding, and which is important. I mean, that's important for an assistant coach, and not just so that you can go get another job down the road. That's obviously important. And it's like, look, I've talked to some people about the recruiting position here at Irish Breakdown, and the thing I've said to them is, look, your brand needs to be built up, right? And it's going to benefit you someday when you want to go run your own website.
You and I have had that conversation numerous times, actually. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's also your focus needs to be on building up Irish Breakdown.
Absolutely.
And our goal as a partnership is to build up Irish Breakdown while also building up your brand. Okay. So it's like, that's the same thing for a coach. Yes, it's also to build you up for future opportunities, but it also, like, if Tommy Rees gets to talk more and people get to hear, because like the interview Marcus and Tommy did with us this summer, I thought was great.
Yeah,
I mean, and it's not our interview like that. Man, the questions I asked were so money. Like, I just led them to brilliance because of what I'm saying is we got to see them.
You're right.
Open up about what they believe and what they think and what they see. And other than that, we just hear Brian Kelly's mixed messages all the time, right?
And that was a step forward for Brian Kelly because we hadn't had that opportunity in a long time.
Well, not in that format. We'd only, because I have interviewed coordinators in the past, but it was always like, a written interview
for a magazine,
the magazine, stuff like that, to allow them to kind of be in front of the camera with just me. And but it gave people insight into both of them. But that's not just for fans. That's also for recruiting.
Right.
If you want Tommy Rees to be able to go become a great recruiter, as Marcus Freeman, you want to build Tommy Rees up so he can go into any home and battle with Lincoln Riley and battle with all these coaches, then you need to do your part and help building up his brand, which isn't just about putting out great offenses. It's also getting with Tommy and finding out, look, let's make you available. How often are we going to do that? Right. Because also part of that is you want to make sure that the coach is comfortable. You don't want to parade a coach out there every week if he doesn't love getting in front of the media, even if he's good at it. Some coaches are good at getting with the media, but they still don't like it, right? So that's the question that you need to find out. And let's make sure that we're getting enough face time. I mean, look, Marcus Freeman is still the head football coach. He needs to be the driver of the message. He needs to be the face of the program, just like the last coach needed to be the face of the program.
Right.
But it's also about giving some opportunities for those other coaches to build up their brand, because in this era of social, and even if it's just things like social media, we're like the thing we saw the other day with Tommy Rees talking to the team, like that's a side of Tommy Rees that people don't get to see a lot.
Yeah.
Which is, that's one intense competitive freaking dude.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And you saw that come out. I mean, he was like, cause he's kind of, Tommy's got like a real seriousness about him for a young dude. And he's just kind of like that, just that driven, like, okay, what's the next challenge in front of me?
Yeah.
And you got to see that in that video. I thought that video was great. You know what I mean? And just even if it's stuff like that, using social media to build up their brand. Like we saw a mic'd up thing in fall camp, or was it spring, about Marcus Freeman, but like that stuff I'm doing all the time. I'm putting out all the time. Just this 2-minute clip of Mike Elson giving some rah-rah speech to his D lineman that gets them fired up, or Mike Elson working with the D lineman through drills, and you listen to him teaching and things like that. And those are all things that I think you need to do. Even Rye, if it's not just the assistant coaches being in front of the media, but just getting their face out, because yes, you are the head coach. Marcus Freeman is the driver of this bus now, but at the same time, it can't just, you can't be at every place all the time when it comes to like recruiting and different events and things like that, right? The other thing too is, and this is something that the previous coach I don't think really understood, it is a good thing for a program to lose assistant coaches to go be head coaches at other places. The reason I say that is yes, you want continuity. You want to build a program that they want to stay at, because then they'll only leave for the right, like for good jobs. They won't just leave just any job they get. But when you start showing that you can produce, when you come coach for me, right? I'm Marcus Freeman. You come coach for me, we're going to win some championships. We're going to compete. We're going to get exposure. I'm going to build you up. You're going to help build us up. And it's going to put you in position, if you do your job, to go become a head football coach. Guess what happens when that guy leaves? Now a bunch of other really big-time coaches that want to be head coaches are lining up to come coach Notre Dame, because they know if they come to Notre Dame, coach for Marcus Freeman, that they're going to get an opportunity to be a head football coach. That's a good thing. That ups the value of, because now it doesn't just become a bidding war. Because I can only pay you $1.8 million, and that other school's offering you 2.4. But here's what I can tell you: the last guy that had your position is now a head football coach in the ACC, or he's now a head football coach in the Big Ten, or he's not. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that adds value to a job beyond just the monetary price that you can put on a position.
Right.
Okay. And that is big. That is very big. And that's something that I hope that Coach Freeman does as, again, got to balance it because you're still the face and there's still the players and all that. But and you can put a guy out in front too much to where it's like,
Absolutely.
oh, we got another interview with.
But that's where the
so-and-so.
nuance of being a head coach comes into play, right? I mean, those are some of the things that we are not questioning, but there's still questions that we have to answer about Marcus Freeman as a head coach. And I'll throw up another question here by Rye because he says, what are some of the things that Marcus Freeman will struggle with in his first year as head coach? And I'm not saying he's going to struggle with it, but that's an unanswered question because that is a nuanced thing. How often do you put assistants in front of the media? How often do you meet with the media? Like all of those different things, it's all time management and it's all about being on message and being on brand and all of those things. We don't know what that looks like from Marcus Freeman.
To the whole team.
Correct.
Now, as a coordinator, especially a defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, you are allowed to drive that ship, drive that bus a lot more than you would as the offensive coordinator.
Absolutely.
Right?
Oh, no question.
And so I think he's been able to do that with that part of the team. Now it's how does he do it with the entire team?
Yes.
Right. And the other part of it too is this is why, and I wrote an article about this the morning after we broke the news that Marcus Freeman is going to be the head football coach. This is why it was so important to retain Mike Elston.
Yes.
So vitally important to retain Mike Elston because now you have a coach who knows Notre Dame as well as anybody. I mean, he's been here from day one of this turnaround, right? Day one. He's been the administrative head coach. Look, I was the administrative head coach at a school once. And I mean, the head coach named me that because he didn't want to have to attend every admissions meeting and financial aid meeting. Now, those are, financial aid meetings aren't meetings that Brian Kelly needs to have at Notre Dame. But
you get the point.
Right. I was the one meeting with the dorm directors. I was the one meeting with all these. The head coach didn't have to worry about that stuff, right? Well, Mike Elston's done some of that stuff, right? Not again the Notre Dame version of that.
Right.
He understands. Hey, this is some of the stumbling blocks that Coach Kelly had. He had a really hard time juggling this and this and this and here's some things that have to be, have to happen here. And you got to make sure that you plan for this because if you don't do it now, it's going to hit you right before the season. I mean, because sometimes you're planning things in April that don't happen until August, September, October, November, because you don't want to have to wait till you get to fall camp to plan those things. So you find out, okay, who do I need to put in charge of that? Right. Who do I need to have doing this? Who do I need to have doing that? And I think those are things that Marcus Freeman will have some stumbles with, right? There will be some first season. Why did he make that in-game call? Right. There's going to be some of that.
There's always going to be second guessing for a head coach as far as playing calls or no play call or whatever.
Because if it doesn't work, it's going to be like, oh, see, rookie head coach.
Right. Absolutely.
If it works, it's going to be like, oh, this guy is so advanced and he's so smart.
Yeah.
Right. But that's going to happen. You're going to make some calls that don't work.
Yep.
Okay. It is what it is. There's going to be some games where the message you thought was going to work to get your team fired up doesn't get your team fired up.
Yeah.
Right. That's going to happen.
Absolutely.
And how do you handle it? How do you react to it? Are you able to recognize it by Wednesday that we're not there yet? We need to figure something out for Thursday's practice because we're just not mentally in a good place. That happens everywhere.
Yes.
Right. I mean, I guarantee there's been weeks where Nick Saban's like, I don't know what the heck's wrong with these kids, right? Like we're trying to get them riled up and get ready for this game, and they're just not fired up today. And then you have to be in tune to kind of be like, well, what's going on? And that's when you kind of bring your captains in and, hey, what's going on, man? Well, hey, we had a situation, and then okay, let's deal with that, right? And then bam, let's do it. It's out of the way. When you're on the field, we're focused on this. Okay.
Absolutely.
Those are some of the things that Marcus Freeman is going to have a tougher time with. And I think it's important that the most important hires he's going to make from here until the staff is full are on the offensive side of the ball.
Absolutely. And that's actually the perfect segue because you had mentioned the fact that at Notre Dame under the previous regime, the defense was kind of their thing. And he was able to guide the defense and do his thing on the defensive side because the head coach was more offensive oriented. It's the complete opposite now. Marcus Freeman's more defensive oriented. And we assume that he's going to be more involved on the defensive side. So this is an opportunity for Tommy Rees to now take the offensive side and drive that bus And that's another unanswered question because look, it's not a secret that Tommy Rees wasn't 100% in charge of the offensive side of things. Okay. So now he gets that opportunity, and is he going to run with it? I think he will.
Yeah.
How successful he'll be, we're going to find out.
And he's going to make some mistakes too, right? He's a 29-year-old offensive coordinator.
Yes.
Now that when you get some of that freedom, you're like, I probably should have, played for field position on that one.
But
like
again,
those are the type of decisions you're going to see more mistakes from.
Yes.
It's that sometimes it's okay to look, it's 3rd and 15. We're at our own 12. Okay, you run a play that has something open, but make sure your quarterback knows that if it's not there, take the check down, play field position.
Right. I think that's where Coach McNulty comes into play for Tommy Rees. Right.
And,
same thing.
Okay, so I'm gonna put this out there. I feel better about saying it now because I've now heard it from 2 really good sources of mine that there have been some preliminary conversations about, in some capacity, not as a full-time position coach, but in some capacity, bringing Harry Hiestand back to Notre Dame. Now, again, not necessarily as like the offensive line coach. I think there's some other guys who are targeting for that, and I don't think Coach Hiestand wants to be a full-time coach again, that from what I'm told, but in some capacity. But that's just another experienced veteran voice. If I'm Tommy Rees, I'm like, hey, Coach Freeman, there's a guy that I have a ton of respect for named David Cutcliffe, who is now unemployed and kind of retirement mode. Maybe it might be good for us to bring him on as an analyst because David Cutcliffe obviously was here, was going to be here, was here.
Assistant coach.
For spring, right?
Yeah,
Wasn't he here for that first spring?
No, I don't think he ever
did he have the heart attack before the spring?
Yeah, I believe so. He was on staff for like a week and a half. Like it wasn't very long.
That was before before my time here.
I don't think he ever actually
he was supposed to be part of Charlie Weiss's first staff at Notre Dame. So those are just being savvy enough to use the analyst role to bring in some veteran experienced coaches, right?
Yeah,
it is something that I think could help them to where not that they're telling you what to do, but they're that veteran voice that when, hey, Coach Cutcliffe's role is, hey, you tell me what my role is. And then when you want my opinion, you let me know and I'll give it to you. That's got to be a thing too, because you can't just have a million people in your ear telling you what to do. It needs to be, look, this is your role, but I would like for you to be someone I can lean on. Hey, Coach Elson, you're my D coordinator or my D-line coach or my recruiting coordinator, whatever role Coach Elson is going to have. I don't know what that's going to be, but I also need to be able to lean on you for this. But you also can't have Mike Elson following Marcus Freeman around yapping in his ear. You should have done this. You should have done this. You should have done this. And that's not what Mike Elson was going to do, right? No. So it's just about making sure that you bring people in, they understand what their role is, and that they're there to provide experience and guidance when needed. Mm-hmm. But this still has to be Marcus Freeman's thing. He needs to. You need to pursue that advice. You can't just have people guiding you and manipulating you. Then they're the head coach, basically.
Right.
This is my vision, and I want you to help me accomplish it. That's what it boils down to. No question. Yes, thank you for following up, Ryan. I really appreciate that.
That was awesome. I'm going to roll through the super chats, and then we'll go back to the top because we do. The point of the super chats, I just want to remind everybody, is that if you do give one, we're going to move you to the front of the line, essentially. So, or behind the other super chats, then we'll go back to everybody else. I mean, we want to make sure we hit as many people's questions as we possibly can, without obviously being on for 24 hours a day.
Vince isn't home today, so we're going to be here for a little bit. Okay,
no, we're going to be here for a while, but I do have 2 high school basketball games I got to call tonight. Mm-hmm. All right. Benjamin, thank you very much for the super chat. Can you give a quick breakdown of all the games happening this weekend and give us your opinion on who is going to win? Love, IB. And I'll tell you what, Ben, we were going to do a whole show on this.
Yeah.
And then Brian Kelly left.
Yeah.
So that kind of changed things.
And I may still do something, but look, I just put something in the chat at the bottom. It's a link to something I do every week now. Once the rankings are come out, I do this every Friday. It's a cheering guide, right? The Notre Dame football cheering guide, and it just tells you all the games, and it includes like App State and Louisiana. It includes Utah State and San Diego State, right? Because a lot of people just focusing on the games of teams ranked ahead of Notre Dame. Well, I'm focusing on couple of those games where 19 to 25 teams are playing. If they lose, then maybe Wisconsin and or Purdue jump back in. That's going to help Notre Dame's resume. Those things matter too.
Yeah,
Notre Dame's going to have less of an argument to make if their 11 wins all came over unranked teams.
No question.
So, to answer your question, I mean, as far as who's going to win, I don't know. What I can tell you who I think Notre Dame does need to win. They need Georgia to win. That's first and foremost. If Georgia loses, then you have Bama in, you have Georgia in. Now you need almost a full
you need everything else basically to
just
happen.
about, yeah. But essentially, the easiest path for Notre Dame is Georgia wins and Oklahoma State loses. Right?
Yeah.
So because I think that drops Bama behind Notre Dame, definitely drops Oklahoma State behind Notre Dame. Yep. And now that Notre Dame has a head coach, there's a lot of energy. I think that's going to benefit Notre Dame in that regard, to be honest
I do too. I mean, look, the committee's not going to put Notre Dame in the Final Four just to put them in the Final Four. I mean, things have to happen for that to happen. But now that there's a head coach and there's continuity and there's momentum for Notre Dame,
they're not going to be hurt because of
exactly. And they may,
Brian Kelly even.
I'll just say it. I think they may even be helped just a little bit because I think there is momentum with this team right now. So again, things still need to happen ahead of them. I mean, what Brian just said, Baylor needs to win. Georgia needs to win. Those things happen. I feel very confident that Notre Dame will get in. I wasn't that confident before they named a head coach because I feel like they would have manipulated things to make sure that they didn't get in.
So let's talk about what a perfect weekend would be for Notre Dame. Okay. Perfect weekend for Notre Dame looks like this.
Okay.
And I'm going to go order of games.
Yes,
that's what I did. That's what I did in my article. It's the order of games. Okay. Number 1, Baylor beats Oklahoma State.
Right at noon. That's the noon game. Boom.
Then you've got at 3:00, you have 2 games at 3:00. Utah State needs to beat San Diego State. Okay. Then you have a 3:30, you have App State versus Louisiana. You need App State to beat Louisiana. The reason I say that is there's a chance that if San Diego State and Louisiana both lose, there's a chance that either Wisconsin and or Purdue jump into the top 25. It at least gives the committee the opportunity to put them in if they feel the need to boost Notre Dame's resume because they feel that Notre Dame is there, but they know that Notre Dame doesn't have top 25 wins. All of a sudden,
that's what the committee does. That's what they do. So after like 15, right, that the last 10 spots are to make the committee's case.
Right.
Okay. I mean, let's be real clear on that because it doesn't matter. 15 through 25 doesn't matter.
It should, but that's just what
it doesn't.
Do. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So they're going to use those spots to either enhance somebody's resume or hurt somebody's resume that they don't have in a certain place, right? And they wanted to jump Oklahoma State over Notre Dame. So
and they should have.
They should. I'm not disagreeing with it. No, not at all. But it makes their argument a lot easier if Purdue and Wisconsin are out of the top 25 because Notre Dame has 0 top 25 wins. I mean, people, it all makes sense, right? So you're absolutely right that those games are important. Continue.
4:00. You need Georgia to beat Alabama. You need Houston to beat Cincinnati. Both of those games start at 4:00. I'll be paying more attention to the Alabama-Georgia game.
Yes.
Because I still don't think it's a given. I've said this before. I don't think it's a given that Notre Dame gets in if Cincinnati loses. Somebody said to me the other day, well, like Notre Dame would have a better resume. I'm like, based on what? Well, Cincinnati played a soft schedule. And I was like, brother, Notre Dame has 0 wins over top 25 teams, right? Cincinnati would have a win over a top 5 team. Okay. But if you are going to root for Cincinnati to lose, then root for Houston to win big. That's going to be the key. Right. And then after that, you've got Michigan and Iowa at 8:00. You need Iowa to win. So Baylor.
If all that wins, Notre Dame's 2.
Yeah, no kidding. You aren't joking.
I'm just saying.
They go from 6 to 2. What the heck is going on around here? You know what that would do, though, is if all that happened, it could very well set up a Notre Dame-Cincinnati rematch.
You're absolutely right. It could.
Now, if you want a Notre Dame-Cincinnati rematch, here's what you need to happen. You need Georgia to beat Alabama. You need Baylor to beat Oklahoma State. You need the 2 non-Power 5 games to go the way we talked about, and you want Cincinnati to win.
Yes.
So if Michigan loses and Oklahoma State loses and Bama loses, you're going to have a 2-3 matchup between Notre Dame and Cincinnati. Yeah. That's my dream scenario.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Scenario for me.
Yeah. And then 4 is really up for grabs with a bunch of 2-loss teams.
That would make it a really fun Sunday.
It would be funny because nobody would be talking about Notre Dame because Notre Dame is 3.
Right.
And the discussion would be who gets 4. Like,
I think it would be Michigan in that instance.
Okay, but it depends on. I think it all depends on the difference in the score if they lose to Iowa, what that whole game looked like. You're muted, brother. Are you there? You're mute.
I
there
am.
You go.
I am.
There we go. So it would all matter, differentiation of score and all those different things. But I think that would be a fantastic conversation to have, because Notre Dame would be like, yeah, Notre Dame's 3. Let's have a discussion about who's in the 4 spot. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, that would be great. I would love for them to play Cincinnati. That would be glorious beyond glorious. And then let's say they beat Cincinnati and Ryan Day ends up going to the Bears. Then the next game he plays Fickle again at Ohio State. Like,
yeah.
Just some things are just too perfect. All right.
Yeah.
Matt Baisley, thanks for the super chat here for today's show. I say we just watch Coach Freeman get introduced to the team on repeat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much. Patrick Connolly said, thank you for the super chat. Thank you both for outstanding week of updated information, quality insight, and unrivaled discussion. Well done. Thanks, Patrick. Really appreciate that, man. We are definitely burning the midnight oil at times. So we appreciate that very much. Believe me. Demetrius Rex with the super chat. Thank you very much. Love this news I'm hearing about Brian Hartline. Even if this doesn't happen, it's more evidence of the ambition and drive Coach Freeman has. I think that's the key right there.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say that Hartline is going to come to Notre Dame.
I'd be shocked if he did.
Yeah, but you know what? You don't know unless you ask.
Right. Make him say no.
Make a run at it.
Make him say no.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's really important. And that, look, he does that for recruiting, and he's recruiting coaches right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not surprised, but I loved hearing it. I loved hearing that. Yep. Ted, thank you for the super chat. How much does Freeman have to say about uniforms and brand at Notre Dame? I think Under Armour contract through 24 is a disadvantage. We need Nike or Jumpman.
I am very anti-Nike and very anti-Jumpman.
I don't want Jumpman.
I'd rather not have slave labor making Notre Dame's uniforms. It's just my thing. I know I'm picky and weird about that, but that's just my thing.
And I don't know how much say the football coach has on that.
I would imagine he would have have a voice.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's going to be the contract. It's going to be who offers the best deal.
Absolutely. Under Armour's not going to go down without a fight either.
Right. Assuming they have the resources to fight.
That's fair.
That's the question that some people have.
I'm sure. That's fair. John, thank you for the super chat. Brian and Vince, great job this week. 2 items. First, what's Freeman's first adjustment as head coach? Second, who has the better Southern accent, Brian or Vince? I thought that I had a pretty good one. I was goofing around with my wife earlier today, but then Brian just slayed it. I mean, he lived in Virginia, so that just definitely
people don't talk like that in Virginia. People don't talk like that in Baton Rouge. That's more of like a Savannah, real. It's more of a Southern accent you see on TV than a Southern accent you'd actually meet real Southern people.
Exactly. I have been holed up in Northern Indiana my whole life, so
I need to get my man Tommy to be my BK translator now. Like that's the job I need to have Tommy do. You know what I mean? Like we talked about that anger translator, that we talked about. That would be great. is have Tommy be my Southern translator. Have Tommy, because Tommy's got a legit Southern.
That's
Southern
great
accent.
I want to pull this up as I'm scrolling through. I've gotten this many times. Doesn't Vince kind of look like Mike Elston? I've gotten that a lot, although he could fit me in his pocket. He is a lot larger, taller, broader man than I am. But I have gotten that a lot, which I'll take it as a compliment. Domer, Texas 22. Thank you for the super chat. Can y'all emphasize with the Brian Kelly accent, please? Describe who decides on the head coach hiring. Is it mostly Jack or a mix of Jack Swarbrick, Jenkins, and the board of trustees?
It's Jack's decision with the guidance and counsel of the president and the board of trustees. Everybody gets to make their opinion known, but at the end of the day, it's Jack's decision. Just like it's Jack's decision at the end of the day to hire and fire. There were a lot of people on the board, from what I'm told, that wanted Brian Kelly gone after 2016. Jack Swarbrick is the one that made the decision to stay the course. It ended up being a very smart decision. And again, it shows why Jack is a very successful guy, in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. No question.
So to me, you look, because I've doubted Jack several times. I had real serious doubts early in this process. I just don't think, because you know what it is for me, Vince. I just kind of follow Notre Dame and cover Notre Dame. It's just been burned too many times to get too excited about something until it happens. And so I had some doubts, that they're going to take kind of the easy road and go with something like Fickle or Matt Campbell or something like that.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
At the end of the day, he made the decision he should have made, and he went with Mark Freeman. And we don't know if it's going to work out. And whether or not it works out, to me, doesn't make it any better or worse of a hire. You made the hire you needed to make at the time. You took
based
that
on right
we
now.
said you've got to take that shot. You've got to take that shot. You got to take your shot. And it's going to be a big thing.
Kudos to them that they did. Corey D, is there a Marcus Freeman press conference today? It is Monday at 2:00 and Eastern time. And my anticipation is because they always have a press conference after they find out where their bowl is going to be. So they're just kind of wrapping it all into one. I mean, that makes sense. I get it. I didn't read the email carefully enough, and I started planning my day to day as if there was a 2:00 press conference. And somebody's like, "It's Monday." Oh yeah, I guess it is. So, but yeah, 2:00 Monday, and it will be, I'm assuming, on their YouTube. It'll be on every TV station around here, and it'll be, great. Michael, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that, Michael, very, very much. Michael, again, any update on Quinn, Alexander, and Polian?
So from what I've heard about Coach Quinn is that there's a chance he may not coach next year. My understanding is just he's an older guy and he's had some things that would just make him want to spend some time with his family, maybe take a year off. There's a chance he joins Brian Kelly at LSU, but I if I had to guess, I would guess that he would just kind of take a step back for a little bit, kind of like what Coach Easton did when he left the Bears. Just look, I just need to gather and refresh and energize, take care of my health, spend some time off. Because Jeff Quinn's been grinding as a coach for 40 years, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that long time.
It'd be nice for him and Shannon to kind of maybe take a little bit of time to just say, hey, man, you made a lot of money the last few years. Enjoy your family. I think he's got kids, and I think he's a grandpa. I believe. I could be wrong on that, but I believe
I would
he
assume
is.
that would be accurate. But
take some time to go be with your family, and then get back at it. If you want to get back into coaching, get back at it in a year or so. If you want to. But Del Alexander, I have not heard anything on him one way or the other. So I don't want to try to pretend that. I know people talking about him. They got him listed as the tight ends coach at USC on Wikipedia. Wikipedia is not a news source. Okay,
No,
it's a
fan source.
Yes, right. It's people do troll stuff like that all the time, and I just could it end up being that way? It wouldn't surprise me if he did, because he's an LA guy, but they also have a tight ends coach currently that is a Texas Tech guy that obviously Lincoln Riley is going to be very familiar with. I have heard that Graham Harrell is going to stay on as the OC at Oklahoma. I don't know how true that is. I mean, at USC. I don't know how true that is. We'll find out, but that's kind of what I've heard. So,
and then Brian Polian is looking to be.
We talked about that. I don't know this. I have not heard this, but Tim Priester reported this, and for Tim to say this publicly, means he's very confident in the sourcing for it. And if Tim says something publicly, then I trust it. I mean, I'll always still try to do my due diligence. I haven't tried to figure it out because I just don't care. But I have been told he's not coming back, but I didn't really care to look into where he's going. But Tim reported he's going to be the head coach at Lafayette College.
Right.
That's an FCS school in Eastern Pennsylvania.
So there are 4 assistant coach positions open right now that we are aware of, unless there's been deals made and they're doing background checks and all that fun stuff. So 4 official,
which there have not been 4 deals made. There are he's still efforting. As far as I know, there's no one else that's agreed to a coaching position.
Right.
There's no one. He's just offered, hey, you're going to be this guy. know. So, but I am confident. I have gotten confirmation from obviously some of them posted it. But I mean, the 6 we talked about the other night are all coming back. Obviously, Tom Rees and Mike Elston are coming back. Lance Taylor's coming back. I've got that confirmed. John McNulty's coming back. Mike Mickens is coming back, and Chris O'Leary's coming back.
Right.
So 7 of the 10 assistant coaches from last year are still at Notre Dame. Of course, there's 4 openings because one of those 7 is now the head football coach.
Correct. Nailed it, sir. And we don't know what positions everybody's going to be doing. I mean, we can speculate, but we haven't been given, a specific document that says this person is this and this person is this.
Yeah, but I think the only 2 things that I think the secondary makes sense. We know, they're both coming back because I don't.
Right.
Why would they going to coach corners and O'Leary's going to coach safeties? Right. Now, will Mike Mickens have a role of like pass game coordinator or something like that? That could be the case. Will Mike Elston here's a question. Like, okay, Mike Elson's done a great job coaching D-line, but if they make him the D coordinator, again, this is speculation to kind of get you to understand that there's moving parts to this.
Right.
They may say, hey, listen, Mike Elson's going to be as the D coordinator. We want you to coach linebackers, a position he's coached before. And we're going to hire a D-line coach to just focus on the D-line. Let the D coordinator coach linebackers like the last two D coordinators. And of course, Mike Elko coach safeties. So that could be something too, right? Where they actually hire a new D-line coach if Mike Elson is going to be the D coordinator. So, I mean, and the other thing too is if they could just make Mike Elson the D coordinator and then hire a linebacker coach and a D-line coach. And then you can maybe make one of those two guys a special teams coordinator. So there's a lot of moving parts to this. You could keep Lance Taylor's receivers coach and then hire a new running backs coach. There's just a lot of moving parts of this, and that's kind of why we're not speculating a ton. Like all that stuff that I just said, all of it was pure just examples of why there's moving parts of this. None of that are things that I've been told or that I know or anything like that. I just want to make sure people understand where we're coming from on that.
Next super chat, Caleb Collins. Thanks for the super chat for the great accents. Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you very much, Caleb. That is fantastic.
I thought that my accent was worth more than $4.99, though. I'm just saying. I thought that was pretty good. I thought I could have been like on, Sweet Home Alabama with that sucker. You know what I mean?
Alabama. Wow. You just want to play a part opposite Reese Witherspoon. That's all.
I'm good.
Okay.
No, I'm good.
Corey said, thanks for the super chat, Corey. Marcus Freeman being the new Irish coach scares the crap out of people. It was very telling, the interview that you did with the LSU guy a couple nights ago, when he was telling you what the thought of Marcus Freeman was around some of the southern areas, that we don't usually cover, right? It was very interesting that people were afraid of Marcus Freeman if he ever got a hold of this program.
And I use the word afraid of more of like, boy, Notre Dame's going to be pretty good. Right. Not like, oh, God, like I'm shaking. You know what I mean? Like I want to make sure that I use – they're concerned that Notre Dame's going to do some serious damage in the recruiting trail. That's more about it.
Michael with the super chat. Thank you very much. Saw BK's speech at the LSU basketball game, and he was feigning a Southern accent. What a chameleon.
Yep.
Tony with the super chat. Thank you very, very much. So Dell and Jeff are still on the staff. Is that to maintain continuity for the rest of the year? And then they're gone. So we kind of just touched on that a little bit, but usually assistant coaches stay through the bowl game,
unless they get another job.
Right. And even some guys, they know that they're going to another place, but that doesn't all transpire until after the bowl games. I mean, there's been plenty of times where coaches have been coaching and the bowl game's their last game, and then they move other places, and they're kind of doing double duty, recruiting for one school. And again, this time of year is always very, very complicated for assistant coaches. Right. So,
it's a tough deal. That's why making sure that 6 of the 10 guys that are going to be coaching the bowl game are coming back.
Yeah,
it helps because that's 6 guys that are absolutely 100% focused on Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, exactly correct. They're not worried about getting a job anywhere else. They're not interviewing. They're not sending out resumes. All those things. Yeah,
which is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Tristan with the super chat. Thank you very much. Just from the one speech alone, I can just feel a different energy from the nameless one to Marcus Freeman. By the way, I'm from Cartersville, Georgia, and the nameless one's accent is beyond embarrassing.
Well, not only that, but everyone that I've ever known that's from that part of Louisiana, they don't talk like you're from Savannah, Georgia. Right? I mean, it's just...
Yeah, I know.
Whatever.
I know. Gene with the super chat. Thank you very, very much, Gene. Appreciate that. He's got the wedding photo deal there. So congratulations.
Yes,
that was
absolutely.
Recent. I'll throw that out there. Gene again, jumping in with the super chat. Thank you very much. Ready to run through a wall. Let's go Irish. It was funny. I saw somebody comment on Marcus Freeman's video on Twitter, and it said, "Are there going to be any walls left at Notre Dame?" that was fantastic.
Well, if there's any buildings they want to tear down,
yeah, I know, right?
You get a unique demolition crew.
Absolutely. Joseph Barrett, thanks for the super chat. Kind of what we already talked about, but Brian and Vince with what other staff changes aside from Quinn? Assume Polian is gone as well. So at this point, it's Alexander, Quinn, and Polian that we don't know about yet. Right. And so we don't know. And what are they going to do with that 4th spot? I think that is also up in the air because I don't know if Marcus Freeman's going to have that designated, special teams coach or if it's going to be a shared responsibility. I think that is a very interesting thing to keep an eye on as well. Toe Jam with the super chat. Thank you very, very much. Harbaugh just crapped his khakis. Mike Gundy's toupee is spinning on top of his head like a top. Kirby may lose to Bama just
Mike
to try.
Gundy does not have a toupee. You shut your dirty. That mullet is real. That is a real mullet. That's a real
Kirby may
one.
lose to Bama just to try and keep Notre Dame out, and Fickle is under his desk in the fetal position. Who wants a piece of Notre Dame now?
Well, there's going to be some team. I mean, look, some teams are concerned about Notre Dame, but there's also some. They're not like afraid of Notre Dame. Like,
there's plenty of people that want Notre Dame. That might be to their peril when it's all said and done, but they want Notre Dame. So, Alberto with the super chat, for a Euro super chat. Thanks, Alberto. Really appreciate it. I'm disappointed Freeman didn't address the team for the first time with a new accent.
Oh my God! Could you imagine how savage that would have been? That'd have been beyond petty. Like, that'd have been a level of pettiness I would have had a tremendous. Let's go, y'all! Let's do this thing. That'd have been so freaking funny.
Oh my God!
Man. But he's classier than me, so that's why.
So much more than both of us.
And Alberto had another one I just want to pull up. He goes, "Get a beanie and a dirty stash, and we might see Vince coaching D lineman on Notre Dame sideline next season." Okay, can I also say one more thing? There's one big difference between Mike and Vince. Mike Elson's about a foot taller than Vince is.
I told you I could fit his pocket.
Yeah. So I think people might figure out pretty quickly that that's not Mike Elston.
We both have 3 daughters. We got that thing going for us.
Yep.
Let's see here. Dan with the super chat. When playing the elite, we've had the second best team on the field or being flat. Freeman's recruiting skills and style. Do you think Notre Dame will close the gap?
We'll find out.
I hope so. I mean, look, he wouldn't have.
I know that Marcus Freeman has some gap closer stuff at his house. I know that for a fact. But I mean, it's a phrase he uses on recruiting, and he's done it since the moment he got here.
Yeah. So he may have some gap closing gear.
He does. I'm telling you, he does.
I was being like I was trying to be sneaky, but I know that he does. So, all right, Patrick with the super chat. Brian Kelly's accent was Ross Geller losing his accent in front of his class. Friends reference. Well done.
I don't remember that episode.
Yeah, well done.
The only one I remember is the pivot. I wasn't really a Friends guy, to be honest with you, but I've seen that episode and it's freaking hilarious. Anyone that's moved into an apartment building like I have knows exactly like getting a freaking like who would design that kind of thing in a for a apartment building, but whatever. Yeah, that was freaking hilarious. Hilarious.
Let's Real Sports Talk with Alex. Thanks for the super chat. Carnell Tate pinned his Notre Dame picture to his Twitter. Is he going to choose Notre Dame? Also, what other 5 stars do you see coming to Notre Dame? Thanks, IB.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to pick Notre Dame. I mean, I think there's a lot of emotion, but at the end of the day, there are still some other things that need to get worked out. I mean, right now he wouldn't know who his position coach would be at Notre Dame. So I think he's excited about it. I think he thinks it's a cool picture. But let me explain something to y'all about Carnell Tate. That is a savvy young man when it comes to how to use social media. And I'm saying that in a 100% complimentary fashion. Which is ultimately why I kind of feel like Carnell Tate should be at Notre Dame because he's a really smart kid that would fit in really well here. He's a heck of a player, obviously. But I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know if he's going to pick Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I don't, but I think that this helps. Look, there's going to be a lot of energy about Marcus Freeman because in the past, if you're an offensive player, like, yeah, I like Coach Freeman, but he doesn't have anything really to do with me, right? He's a coordinator. It doesn't matter to me at the end of the day. Now he's your head coach, and that matters a whole lot more. So before, that's why we kind of laugh when people would talk about, Freeman should coach offensive players. I'm like, why would an offensive player care what Marcus Freeman thinks? I mean, it's really cool to meet you and I love you, coach, but you're a real good guy, but I'm not playing for you.
Right.
Well, that changes now.
Right.
Because now you are playing for him, no matter what side of the ball you're on.
Right.
And I think that's important, obviously.
This one was right underneath Alex's, and it kind of is similar in the similar vein.
Yeah, because we're not doing just super chats today.
No, we're not. I was just trying to get through them because we do say that they jump to the front of the line. Mm-hmm. Brian, I know you love Dante Moore, but if Cutcliffe comes to Notre Dame as an analyst or whatever, doesn't Manning look at ND more seriously?
Perhaps, but I think Dante Moore's better than Arch Manning. Right. So to me, it wouldn't matter to me. And the thing about Dante Moore is, look, the best team that David Cutcliffe ever had, his two best teams, in my opinion, had mobile quarterbacks. remember, what was it, Anthony Boone was the name of the kid the year they won 10 games and played against A&M in a bowl game. I think it was Anthony Boone. I'm going to look that up. But and then Daniel Jones was a very mobile quarterback.
Yes,
he was a running quarterback. So
for sure.
And the thing about Dante Moore is Dante Moore's mobile. Dante Moore's a passer, though. That's the thing is Dante Moore is I'm trying to think of an example. Like Dante Moore is more, I'm not comparing this physical skill set. I'm comparing the style of play. He's more Pat Mahomes than he is Josh Allen. And what I mean by that is, using what I believe to be kind of the two top young quarterbacks in the NFL, Pat Mahomes is a pocket passer that can use his legs to do damage. Josh Allen plays more of a John Elway-esque type of game where his legs are a weapon.
Sure.
He'll run. Maybe he's more Pat Mahomes than Lamar Jackson, if that's a more drastic difference. You know what I mean? But Dante Moore is a pocket passer who happens to also be very athletic and can run. That's the thing. So I think he would fit into, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter who David Cutcliffe wants. It's going to matter who Tommy Rees wants.
Absolutely.
And I don't know that, I don't know if Tommy would pick Dante over Arch. I don't know. I've been told he likes Dante more, but we'll have to find that out.
David with the super chat, without the knowledge, thank you, David, by the way, very much. Without the knowledge that you have, Brian, and the Vincenzo, no longer just Vincenzo, was Coach Rees on a leash? And if he was, what is the output with him when he is unleashed?
Okay, so we have used that phrase in the past before, and I want to make sure that I'm very clear and very specific with what I mean. I don't think that Brian Kelly was sitting there in the headset the whole game telling Tommy Rees what he could and couldn't run. Okay, that wasn't happening. That would maybe happen at times during the game, but that always happens with a head coach, especially one who's an offensive-minded guy. He's going to take time. Say, look, on this 3rd and 2, I want to take a shot. Let's go with such and such, right? That'll happen from time to time. But what I meant by that is that it was a situation where Kelly's influence was still heavily there. I don't think that Tommy Rees was calling anything against his will. Mm-hmm. I don't think Tommy Rees is implementing game plans that he was like, this is terrible. I think that Brian Kelly and Tommy Rees have a lot in common in a lot of ways. But I do think that there's a direction that Tommy Rees would have liked to have taken the offense that maybe weren't necessarily where Brian Kelly would have wanted to take the offense. Real specifically. And I think those are the things that we're going to see Tommy Rees maybe modernize it a little bit more as we saw in the second half of the year. Because if everything that we're hearing is true about Brian Kelly basically checking out sort of midway through the season, it tracks with that's about when the offense changed. Right? And, maybe he did that, because he knew he was leaving to, I'll show Driscoll and we'll run this offense he wants and it's going to suck. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding about that. He didn't do that. But it was more that than it was anything like Tommy just didn't want to run what he wanted to run, that kind of thing. If that was the case, then Tommy wouldn't have even considered going with Brian Kelly to LSU for a second. Mm-hmm. And he did. But I think you're going to see him put they have a similar philosophy. Tommy's going to be able to put his DNA on it even more now. And that's what it's going to look like. And thank you for the super chat, by the way. And I just put real quick, people are asking about the interviews I did with the LSU people. I just put links to them both in the bottom of the chat if you're interested.
Nice. It's gonna be similar to what Marcus Freeman said in his little speech. He said, "We're not going to change anything. We're going to enhance it." Like, I think that is a perfect synopsis of what I feel like the offense is going to look like. Mm-hmm. You're not going to see a huge change, right, to the naked eye, but it's going to be enhanced. And just come on back to Irish Breakdown, and we'll tell you how it's been enhanced, because that's what we do. Mm-hmm. Patrick, thank you for the super chat very much. Devil's advocate Brian, convince me Coach Freeman is not Clay Helton. Team reactions were quite similar. Great show. Thank you.
I just think he's more dynamic in every way. I think he's someone that, number one, had greater success, obviously, as a coordinator than Clay Helton did. Clay Helton was at USC for how long? I don't think he was at USC very, very long. And he came from Western Kentucky. I'm going to have to look that up. But I think that Marcus Freeman was, had a stronger track record, in my opinion. So, no, he was there for longer than I thought he was. It shows you how little impact he made. I just think he's a more dynamic guy, to be honest with you. I think he's a more dynamic guy. His brother was at Western Kentucky. He was at Memphis. Just a more dynamic coach. I think he's a guy that you want to play for. Clay Helton is a really nice man, a real, not a little passive, I think. Not a guy that commands a room, in my view. That was one of the big knocks on him, is he just doesn't command a room. You look at Marcus Freeman when he talks, he commands a room, right? And that's been true. I mean, think about, okay, for all the people that have been listening to this channel for months that were with us in the summer, and we're glad everybody's with us, but just for the people that were this summer, and if you weren't here this summer, go to the Irish Breakdown channel and look up the interview we did with Marcus Freeman this summer. And I remember the reactions people had just listening to me and Coach Freeman talking ball. People are like, man, I'd love to play for that guy, right? That's the whole. I mean, just that was the first time you heard him talking to me and talking ball, and you were just like, man, I want to play for that guy. Remember the reactions we got when we played that video, Vince?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I'd want to play for that guy. I want to play for that guy. I think Clay Helton is a good man that the kids liked and respected as a human being. I don't think he's someone who commanded respect as a head football coach, and that's a big difference.
Yep,
big difference. And I also think Marcus Freeman's we don't talk enough about this. Marcus Freeman is a really smart football coach.
Oh, yeah. Michael, thank you for another super chat. He says, wanted to include this in my above super chat. Saw BK at the LSU basketball game, and he was feigning a Southern accent. What a chameleon. He has no bottom. Yeah, agreed. Spark, thanks for the super chat. Watching the Chris Zort show, Tim Brown and a host of other Notre Dame players, they were disappointed that their field access was restricted. Look,
I've heard a lot of that.
I don't know this for a fact, but just in my limited knowledge of Marcus Freeman, I have a feeling he is going to embrace the history of Notre Dame.
That's not always the head coach, though. Look now. Do I think Brian Kelly played a role in that? Sure, but that a lot of times that's above. That can be above the coach's pay raise, right? Like who was it? Somebody told me that Wes Pritchett was ticked off in that show about how his kids had to pay for like hot dogs and stuff. That's not a Brian Kelly decision. That's a Notre Dame decision. Yeah, now, what Marcus Freeman can do is go say, hey, listen, when players come back, we need to take care of them. Right. Okay? And you want to put down a football budget, then put that on the football budget. Right.
Right.
But that's kind of how that goes. Now, I doubt Brian Kelly didn't do that because Brian Kelly doesn't care about the tradition of Notre Dame other than how it uses him, how he can use it to benefit himself and what he's trying to accomplish. So, yeah.
Just your ordinary Joe. What's going on, Joe? Thank you for the super chat. It says, now that Tommy's leash is longer, over under 0.5 number of offensive plays in Notre Dame's next game run out of the diamond formation.
I'm gonna
the old diamond formation.
Let's put some of a half. I'm gonna if we put some money on this, and I'm gonna have to make a quick phone call to Coach Rees. But hey, look, man, just give me one play, and I'm gonna I'll treat you to dinner with my winnings. Okay. But
Joe's a doctor, so good luck.
Yeah. Well, no, that's what I'm saying is if we're putting money on it, then I need to get Coach to help me win, because if I lose, Joe's got a lot more to work with than I do.
That's great.
So, and I think Joe might be the only person on the planet with as much Irish breakdown or IB gear as I have, which I love. I love Seriously. Joe. Joe's my guy. Love Joe.
He took the term layers to a whole other level.
Yeah,
and I love.
Well, when you guys were talking at the tail, I was like, Vince, you got to go to the game, man.
I know.
Tell Joe bye. You got to go to the game. So like the whole time I'm breaking down, I had a couple people that were helping me break the thing down. Vince is off to the side, not helping me put anything away, just talking to Joe. I was like,
we were talking ball though. Like we're talking stances and starts and I mean, it was.
You can't
fun.
do that while you're helping me break down everything. I'm just saying.
Very single-minded. Just
Joe, we appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Sean, thanks for the super chat. Who would be the ideal special teams coach pending Brian Polian leaving? I like Brian Mason or Stacy Collins.
So I'm not really a big fan of having a special teams coach per se in college. I think that your special teams coach needs to be some combination of your assistants, to be honest with you. I'd be totally fine with that. So you need to have someone you need to have at least two coaches that have real experience coaching on special teams, but they don't have to be special teams coaches. I'm not really familiar with Brian Mason or Stacy Collins. So I can't speak to them specifically, but if they're guys that can coach a position as well, then I'm all for that. I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
MJH Irish 84. Thank you for the super chat. Notre Dame does not need every 5-star, just a couple a year. Marcus can turn the needle on that dial. Watch out.
Yeah, and we're already seeing it in the 22 and 23 classes.
Exactly.
Jalen Sneed. I think Josh Burnham's a top 50-ish caliber kid. Tyson Ford's a top 100 kid. But, you talk about 5-star specifically. Keon Keeley, Brendan Vernon, and Drake Bowen are all ranked by at least one service as a 5-star. And they're all Notre Dame commits. And right now, this is going to help keep them on staff. So you're 100% right. Because it's not – here's the thing about what Coach Freeman's done is – and we have talked about this before, and I've been waiting to write this article for a host of reasons, but I'm going to write it next week. Marcus Freeman has already destroyed a lot of myths about recruiting at Notre Dame, and he did it because he was not afraid to battle and because he has a lot of faith in who Notre Dame is and what Notre Dame stands for. He also has a lot of faith in young men that if given the opportunity, they can thrive here. If given the proper opportunity and guidance, they can thrive here, as opposed to just finding, ready-made players that you don't have to babysit because you don't want to have to invest that kind of time and energy. Marcus Freeman won't have that. But the other thing is more just about he's not afraid to fight. He's not afraid to fight. Look, I don't care if this kid is from an Ohio State feeder school. We're Notre Dame. And that's what it boils down to. It wasn't something he said in our interview. It was what he said in the Chris Zorich interview this summer. And if you haven't watched that, go watch that.
You need to watch that.
Because for after you watch the one that
of course.
But he talks about Notre Dame in a way that I never heard Brian Kelly genuinely talk about Notre Dame. And that's the difference. And Lou Holtz made a comment the other day when Brian Kelly left. He said, I don't think that Brian Kelly, I'm paraphrasing, but it was something along the lines of, I don't think Brian Kelly ever really loved Notre Dame the way you need to. I'm actually going to find that because I thought it was really fascinating. Like to hear Lou Holtz say
said
that.
Something about not embracing Our Lady.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. And only people that really embrace Notre Dame talk like that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And that's the one thing, whether you like him or not, that's the one thing about Lou Holtz is he loves Notre Dame. I'm actually going to play this video here real quick. So just give me a second.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I'm just going to play this video. We'll see. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to jinx it, but if it happens, it happens. It is what it is.
Don't speak it into existence.
It is what it is.
Okay, Coach, the big news.
Can y'all hear it?
Brian Kelly leaves Notre Dame. No head coach at Notre Dame leaves for another job. Brian Kelly leaves Notre Dame and goes to LSU. Not even that. He didn't even tell his players. They found out on social media. What are your thoughts on Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame, going to Louisiana State University?
Well, he was there for 12 years, Mark. He did an excellent job. But I cannot think of one marquee win he ever had over a top 10 team.
I forgot about that.
Beat Clemson when they had the second straight quarterback. When Clemson played them again the same year with Flores, they dominated Notre Dame. But he's an excellent coach. You just don't leave Notre Dame. But you don't go to Notre Dame because of money, Mark. My average salary for 11 years was $115,000. Now he's going to go because of money and all the perks, etc. But the other thing that bothered me about him, Mark, he never talked about Notre Dame and what really made it great. To be part of Notre Dame, you have to talk about the lady on the dome. You got to feel the spirit of Notre Dame. You just got to be part of it. And it's just something you feel awesome responsibility to the Notre Dame fans, but to Notre Dame itself. And that never materialized. But he is an excellent coach. He did a wonderful job. He left the program in much better shape than when he first arrived. But to go somewhere for money, I just don't think that's the right reason.
Yeah,
that's all there is to it, and that's that's somebody speaking from the heart, and I personally appreciate that. So and he had the class not to say it before Brian Kelly left,
right?
And I think that's huge.
Yeah, I mean he I don't know. I kind of feel like if you love Notre Dame and you feel a coach isn't doing right by Notre Dame. I would have been nice just not to be the only person in talking about this the last 3 years.
I guarantee you he said it to him in private.
Yeah.
I guarantee you he said it to him in private.
Yeah.
But Anyway, Greg with the super chat, what would make up the short list, let's say 5 things at most, of things Coach Freeman has to learn and become very good at very quickly to be successful head coach in his first game and first full season? You kind of touched on that earlier, but if you want to give the crib notes version, of that for Greg. But thank you for the super chat, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously being able to translate what he does leading the defense to leading the – because, again, when you're leading the defense, you're leading yourself, your position players, the defensive coaches, the defensive players, and any defensive analysts. Now you're leading – I mean, this is going to sound silly, but this is the truth, okay? You're leading the offense, the defense, all the players, all the coaches, all the support staff, all the trainers, all – people that work the front desk, people that clean the office, people that do anything. Because here's the deal. It's like the Goog, the indoor facility, those are all your home. You are the head of the household. If people walk into my house right now and let's say my house was messy, that says a lot about me, right? And if I hire someone to do my front yard and they do a bad job, no one's going to say, boy, I think that guy's got a bad – boy, that guy's got an ugly yard, right? And so you're literally the person who's directing the program and like from top to bottom in every capacity, including cleaning crew. I mean, that's a real thing. And that means making sure that they're invested in it, that you're treating them with respect, not that you're sitting there every day greeting them as they walk into the building, but when you interact, letting them know that they're appreciated, because you want them to take pride. And I mean, I honestly, if I was a head coach, I would do that. I would meet with the cleaning crew and I'd say, hey, listen, we appreciate y'all. We know y'all work hard and you get no respect. But look, when people come in for recruiting visits and this place is spotless and clean and it looks great, it helps our program get better. And you guys are playing a role in that. I mean, it may sound silly, but that's the kind of thing that you need to do is you are creating a sense of excellence. If you're going to have any association with this football program in any way, shape, form, or fashion, whether it's serving food, whether it's cleaning, whatever, you have a role in our success. And we expect you to understand that it's about excellence, right? Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean you walk around like critiquing the guy handing out lunch. That's not what I'm talking about. It's about making them feel valued.
Make them feel part of the program.
Right. And then they will take pride in what they do. And if they don't, then you can go talk to their boss and say, hey, we need to find somebody else to be doing this. But, that's a big thing. So that's one of those things. I think it's going to be managing. What's going to be hard for him the first time he's in a game is going to be managing both sides of the ball. I promise you the first spring game, he's going to have to work on making sure he's getting on with Tommy Rees, getting on with, so there may be a time where like they're getting close to a 4th down situation and Tommy Rees is trying to, hey, coach, are we in 2 down territory here? Or, and he's going to be on the other side of the headphones. Because what happens is the head coach has like this master headset where like Tommy Rees can only talk to offensive coaches. Mm-hmm. And defensive, Marcus Freeman as the D coordinator could only talk to defensive coaches. The head coach has a switch that he can be on either frequency. He can talk to offense or defense. And if you're on offense and you're trying to find out, hey, we're at the 42-yard line and we're about to be a 3rd and 10. Hey, are we in 2 down territory here, coach? It's going to affect my play call. And if he's on the defensive frequency because he's so locked into defense, that could create a problem, right? So that's going to be something that is going to have to be a quick adjustment. Hey, when it's offensive time, it's offensive time.
Right.
Now, here's the other thing. What may have to happen is if he's going to be able to kind of get to a situation where he's actually calling plays on defense, then he's going to have somebody there that's sort of a non-coach that has the same dual frequency that he has, or is just on the offensive headset that can grab him in those moments and say, hey, Coach Rees needs to know if we're in 2 down here. You know what I mean? Because if he's calling plays, then he may not be as involved in offense. Or they're going to have to decide before the game, hey, Tommy, when we get in this situation, we are in 2 down. So they're going to have a plan if he is still calling plays on defense. And I don't know if he is or isn't. I'm just telling you like just different things that could happen. That's going to be something he's going to have a plan because it's going to be difficult for him to not want to go over and talk to the defense. But the reality is when the defense is on the sideline, if he's just the head coach and not calling plays on defense, he needs to now turn his focus on the offense and be there for them. And what does that mean? Not only just, hey, Tommy, let's go for it here, let's do that, but it's also massaging officials.
Right.
And that guy's offside. Hey, look, that guy's hold my receivers all, you know what I mean? All the way down the field. right? You can't be over there and then your receivers coach is having to do that. That you're the head coach. You're the only one that's going to be able to manipulate an official. If anything, if the receiver coach is doing it, it's a sideline warning. You know what I mean? Like your receivers coach, you can't talk to me, right? Now I would hope he wouldn't run 30 yards down the field and attack a coach if that guy is talking to the officials. I'm just saying, like, that probably wouldn't be a good idea. But you need to make sure that you're focused on that and you have a plan. So there's a lot of those details you may not think about when you're an assistant coach. You don't realize all the things the head coach has to do, right? That those are the kind of things he's going to have to be adjustments. And a lot of it's going to be in-game stuff, because the other stuff you have time to think and prepare and ask questions and all that kind of stuff. The in-game stuff is really what it boils down to. And so those are the adjustments, I think, Greg, that are going to have to really be. So it's about setting the agenda for everyone affiliated with your program. And then number two, it's about making sure that you have a total plan for the in-game operation,
right,
in all three phases of the game: special teams, offense, and defense.
And look, there's a lot of things, because this is a very healthy program right now, you don't have to change. I mean, you're going to want to put your fingerprint on some of it, obviously, but this isn't a rebuild situation, right? I mean, so I'm not saying it's an easier transition, but it's different a lot of times than when a coach leaves, because there's a lot of things you can just plug in and just keep on trucking. You know what I mean? So I think that's part of it too. And so now he can focus on a little bit more of that in-game stuff. And usually when a new coach gets a job, he doesn't have a game in 3 weeks. So he's going to have to kind of figure that out pretty quickly, especially if it's a high-level college football playoff game too. Most of the time, these guys have 9 months to figure out what an in-game situation is going to look like, right? So that part of things is going to have to speed up a little bit, and there's going to be a little bit of trial by fire. And so that is going to be interesting. I did want to put this one up here, Brian, from Cassidy Johnson. The defense just wasn't that good with Freeman this year. I was waiting I want to hear
every statistical analysis that is out there would disagree with you.
Yes.
I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, every defensive sorry, I just saw a comment from my wife. Every defensive analysis, every defensive efficiency metric out there has Notre Dame ranked as a top 10 defense this year. It is what it is. So if you have watched this defense this year and you're still gauging and evaluating the performance based on the Florida State game, I got nothing for you.
Right. Ted, thank you for the super chat. Can you talk about analysts in a program? You always hear about Alabama having an army of analysts. True. Can we close that gap?
To a degree. Notre Dame's not going to pay the kind of money that Alabama does to bring in like the Reform Coaches Association that Nick Saban has, right? And that's just, because he would bring, if you're fired as a head coach, he's going to bring you as an analyst and get you back on track. And Notre Dame's not going to do that, nor do I really care too much about that. I don't mind bringing in like a David Cutcliffe, for a first-year head coach. But, to me, it's about finding coaches that are guys that can coach when you need to, guys that can recruit in the role that they need to, but also analysts have to be really smart guys. Because the way that I think what an analyst should be is, if I'm an offensive coordinator, I'm fighting for a bunch of analysts that are just doing nothing but prep. So what I want, right, what would be great for me is if I have the resources, when I go into my office on Sunday and I'm done breaking down and grading the film we just had, I want to see all the film cut-ups, all the data analysis, all the graphs, and then I want to be able to sit down with you and say, hey, give me my next opponent 101 overview. What are we getting ready for? Right? And that's something I would want to have. And then that means hiring people that are really competent and qualified that when they speak to you about what that defense is doing, that you can trust that that's what they're doing. Now you're going to break it down yourself, but they've already kind of done a lot of that legwork and they're people you trust. I think another thing that Notre Dame is going to have to do, and I don't know if they have this yet, but they're going to have to take a page out of the NFL book with this new, free agency that has now come to college football with the open transfer market. You're going to have 2 or 3 analysts that are basically looking because what they have in the NFL is you have scouts that are literally just scouting other teams. Like they'll have scouts that we'll say who's on the practice squads of different teams, because you can go sign guys off practice squads at certain points in time, right? Like if guy hasn't been put on the team or whatever, or we may go trade for a guy or buy a guy or whatever the case may be. When guys become free agents, they talk to these scouts. Hey, does this guy fit what we do? You're going to need to do that in college football now. You're going to have guys that are out there just looking at kids that you recruited, other players, and say, hey, if a kid hits a transfer portal, hey, Vince, you're my talent scout eventually. Come in here, talk to me about this kid.
Yeah.
And they're going to be able to kind of put scouting reports together. They're going to be the guys that make phone calls about academics once they hit the transfer portal. Hey, what's this kid's grades? What's this? What's that? Calling the high school coaches. You're going to need that part of your recruiting operation that's going to be just focused on the transfer portal. It's a fact. You're going to need it. And so I think those are areas where I think Notre Dame can close the gap. Expanding the analyst staff. They don't have to be former head coaches, but just people that know how to break down film, know how to scout, know how to evaluate, know how to sit down with me, and I can ask them, talk to me about our next opponent. And so, like right now, if I'm sitting, I got my analyst. I'm saying, hey, listen, I need you guys to get me film and analysis on Georgia, Cincinnati, Michigan, Bama, and Oklahoma State, because they all might be future opponents. And I want you guys over here. I want you guys focusing on Michigan State, Ole Miss, Pitt, and Ohio State.
The New Year's Six possibilities.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. And I want a team of analysts that can start working on that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because look, coaches, Notre Dame coaches, the official assistant coaches, there's just not enough hours in the day to be scouring film and putting together reports and doing all of those things. Some of that stuff needs to be done for you. And that's what these analysts are for. And there's no rule right now on how many you can have and what you can pay them. So, I mean, that big time schools put more resources into that, and that's the way it is. So it's going to be interesting to see how that grows or doesn't grow as Marcus Freeman takes over. Kent with the super chat. Thank you very, very much, Kent. Really appreciate that. Michael S. with the super chat. Remember the enthusiasm when Charlie was hired, and even when Faust was hired, he was seen as a great new mind in coaching.
I don't remember. I don't remember Faust. I was 3 years old. You weren't born yet.
Right. So he was born. He came in the 80s, right? He was like
81.
So I was 1. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't remember that part. I do remember there was excitement about Charlie Weiss, when he dropped those 4 Super Bowl rings on the table, and he's a former student at Notre Dame. Yeah. People were excited. I get it.
I don't know how people were. I was coaching, and I was kind of cautiously optimistic about Charlie Weiss because of the background, but I wasn't like super fired up about it.
Yeah.
He was a great offensive mind, but you don't know what kind of head coach he's going to be.
Right.
I think this is a little different kind of energy with what we're seeing now. I said to a friend of mine the other day, I said, look, take my analyst hat off and my trying to be objective in my job. Just as a Notre Dame fan, I can't tell you that I don't know if I've been this excited about the direction of the program since I was a kid.
Yeah.
It's just a different energy, in my opinion. Yep. And also, look, the program's in a lot healthier place with this new coach taking over. And I have never been in a situation in my life where a new coach showed up where the program was really rolling. Notre Dame wasn't bad when Lou Holtz left. They were 9-3 and 8-3. They weren't an elite team anymore. They were clearly on. They were 6-5-1, 9-3 and 8-3 in his last year, 3 years. They weren't an elite program. And I hated the Bob Davie hire. Even then, as a high school kid, I hated that hire. So I wasn't excited about that. And as I look now, and I Brian Kelly, I was happy about because I thought that was the right hire from a coaching standpoint. That was a good hire, and it paid off in a lot of ways. But I haven't been excited about, oh my gosh, this team has a chance to really do something special. Now we'll see if he's going to do it or not. But I honestly have not been this excited about where the program was really since the early 90s when I was a young teenager.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Agreed. Toe Jam jumping back in. Thanks, Toe Jam. Any chance Freeman can flip Sonny Styles?
Oh, I don't think so. Not right now. Because Freeman was the guy he was going to play for anyway.
Yes.
Now, if Ryan Day leaves Ohio State, and I don't necessarily anticipate. NFL teams are coming for him, but they came for him last year. They're going to come for him all the time. I don't know if the Bears or the Raiders are the team that Ryan Day would leave Ohio State for, because he's got a pretty good thing going. But if he did leave, that would give Notre Dame a chance to flip Sonny Styles. But otherwise, I don't.
The way I look at it, it's similar to your line of thinking, is that defensive players that have, like Xavier Nwankpa, for example, right? He's a defensive guy that was being recruited by Marcus Freeman, and he chose to go, or may choose to go elsewhere. I don't know that him getting the head coaching job changes that trajectory for defensive guys. Offensive guys, maybe, because they haven't really had a whole lot of interaction with Marcus Freeman. So, I think tide could turn a little bit more offensively But I think defensively, maybe. But
And I think some of the kids that were hesitant about coming to Notre Dame because they were afraid Coach Freeman wasn't going to be here, that's a real thing. That's not why Xavier Nwankpa stopped looking at Notre Dame, really. And so that's, I don't see Marcus Freeman being hired all of a sudden getting them back with Xavier Nwankpa.
Right.
Are there some kids that really like Notre Dame, but they were unsure because other coaches are telling them that Marcus Freeman's not going to be there a whole lot longer, and he's going to be head coach soon, and he's not going to be there 4 years, which was definitely something that was being told to recruits.
And that's definitely
those are the kids that are going to have an impact on.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I like that. Brandon Plensner, thank you for the super chat, Brandon. Any chance Watts goes back to offense now, in your opinion? Any thoughts on Jim Harding, offensive line coach from Utah, as a possible O-line coach candidate if the position opens?
So I haven't really done a lot of research on a lot of O-line coaches yet, just because I've had some other things going on. I know that Utah plays a really physical brand of football, and he would be a coach, Baylor's O-line coach. There's some guys out there that, like, and it's going to be next week, when I really sit down and start looking at candidates for receivers coach, D-line or O-line coach, and I'm going to try to find out what other positions are going to be open at Notre Dame. Which right now I don't know, because I may need to do something on running backs coach. If they're going to move Lance Taylor to receivers, then I need to focus on running back coaches. So I think those to me are the keys that I would look at. Is just finding guys that fit what they do in those positions. But I haven't dove into that yet, Brandon. But here's all I know. I've watched Utah play this year, and they play a really physical smash mouth style of football. They run the football really well. They don't have a bunch of future first-round NFL draft picks on their offensive line. So, yeah, that would be someone I'd be intrigued by, just because the type of type of ball that they play. But, I'm just looking at the stats now. They've only given up 11 sacks this year. That's pretty good. They don't throw the ball a ton, but, the quarterback's thrown 207, or the quarterbacks have thrown 353 passes this year in 11 games. That's 29.4 a game. That's a decent amount of throws. And of course, they run the football for 218.7 yards per game and average 5.7 yards per carry. So again, they're doing some good things. That would be a program I would look at and find out about their coach. But there's so many things that go into it that I don't know about Coach Harding, and where is he from? What kind of recruiter is he? Is he an older guy that's kind of at the end of his career? Is he a young guy? Right, none of those things. I don't know those things, and so that's why I can't specifically speak to him. But that's definitely on my to-do list for the next 3-4 days, is starting to dive into that kind of stuff. But first of all, I want to find out how serious Notre Dame is about possibly bringing in, Chris Watt or Harry Heastan or something like that.
Yeah, that's
somewhat very
be a killer combination, no question. As far as Xavier Watts goes, before Kelly left, before all this hit the fan, there was no chance of him coming back to offense.
I still don't think there is.
I still don't think there is either.
Because now the head coach is the former defensive coach. Let's be honest.
It's a good point.
Defense is going to win most of those battles if it comes down to which side of the ball once again. But
not wrong
look, I don't think Xavier would be opposed to moving back to offense if it was he was going to play. At this point in time, honestly, with him missing another year of development at receiver, even with a new receivers coach, the only way I would consider moving Xavier back is if Kevin Austin and Avery Davis and Braden Lindsey don't come back.
Right.
Because then Xavier's playing. He's playing right away. The problem now is you move Xavier back and you've got Austin back and Lindsey back. Let's just say Avery Davis comes back. I don't know if he will. You've got Styles. You've got Colsey. You're going to have the incoming freshman. And then you're going to have to throw Xavier back into the mix with those guys when he missed a whole year of development.
Right.
And he wasn't coached worth a darn in the year and a half he was here at receiver. He's going to be behind the eight ball and he's back to there where he could be challenging for a starting job at receiver or safety. Because, like, to me, once the move was made, it just go with it. You know what I mean? Just go with it, right? Just you made the move. Don't keep dicking this kid around and moving him back and forth offense to defense where he never gets comfortable anywhere. That's not fair to him. Xavier Watts is too good of a football player not to play for you, right? So look at where your needs are. And right now, honestly, assuming at least a couple of those veterans are going to come back and they're able to get at least two guys in this recruiting class, I would say if you need depth, go get a veteran guy. Matt Salerno's a decent guy to have for depth, those kind of things. And let Xavier battle for a starting job at safety because that's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, right? I think that's a legit battle.
The need is greater there, in my opinion, right now.
I agree. I completely agree with that.
But you got to have him somewhere he can play, Vince. You can't you can't do to him what happened to Houston Griffith. And this is even worse because it's different sides of the ball.
Right. Yeah, because they just kept going back and forth, corner safety with Houston, and he couldn't get comfortable at, so yeah. He's got eligibility left, right? Houston?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
He may be on, is he going to be on our list of people to talk about next week?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Kent Berglund, thank you very much again for the super chat. He says, love the explanation of how the head coach should treat everyone involved in the program. Go IB, go Irish. And let me tell you this, Kent. I completely agree with you. And it's something that they actually taught me in college. Obviously, I went to school to become a teacher. And one of my professors, and I think this happens at a lot of different institutions, said, look, the first people that you need to make friends with when you are in a school is the secretary and the janitor, because they're the ones that run the school. And they're absolutely right. And I think that is applicable to a lot of different professions that are out there. You gotta be friendly with everybody, bottom up, because those bottom people, okay, and I mean that in the greatest sense of the term, right? Not, you know what I mean, but like they're running the show, man. No matter what people think, they're running the show.
Right.
So you got to be the same person to everybody and make sure that you don't treat anybody lesser than you, because that is just a terrible.
Because if that's going to be your culture, then it needs to be your culture all the time.
Exactly.
Again,
exactly.
Look, you got to avoid the whole turning the switch on and off thing. It just be about it, right?
Just
if that's
be
what you
you.
want, then just be about it, right?
Yep.
If it's about I'm going to treat people, demanding that players treat people with respect, then you don't just treat people with respect who you need to curry favor with. You treat people with respect because that's the heart of your program. We're going to be play with heart. We're going to be passionate. We're going to play with energy and emotion and all this kind of stuff. And I hope we never see another Notre Dame team play flat or have a business-like approach. Like, it doesn't strike me. Marcus Freeman you know what? Can I be honest with you about something?
Always.
When I watched Marcus Freeman walk in with a suit on, he had to wear a suit. He's the head football coach of Notre Dame.
Right.
I honestly was kind of like, what's going to happen here? I was actually nervous that he was going to walk in and be like, men, really excited to be here. And like, that's not him. You know what I mean? And some coaches get a head coaching position and they feel like, well, I got to be different now. When he walked in, it was like, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, okay, cool. He's not changing. His role has changed. He's not changing.
Right.
And that is important for me.
It's hugely important.
Yep.
And that's why those guys, and when he started talking about his players having a voice, and it's because of them that he was standing there and he started to get emotional.
Yeah.
Like, that's real.
Because they went, so I said this before, like not just the social media, but the players, like, okay, so not to a man, but like it was the majority of the team went to Jack Swarbrick and was like, that's who we want as our coach. I mean, he understands that this was a player-led movement.
Yes.
And when he says, without you, I'm not here, I don't know if that's necessarily entirely true. I think Jack Swarbrick still may have ended. I think Jack Swarbrick would have eventually still hired Marcus Freeman. I do. I truly believe at the end of the day, from what I've been told my sources, that Jack eventually, he really likes Marcus. And the only thing holding him back with Marcus was his experience. That was it.
Sure.
Loves Marcus. But I think at the end of the day, I think he would have eventually come back to Marcus. The problem would have been, it would have been in a week or two.
Yep. Exactly.
And now Elson's gone to LSU.
Yep.
Rees has gone somewhere else. Lance Taylor's got to take a job.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden, the only guys you have left are Chris O'Leary and Mike Mickens, and you're starting over from scratch.
Yes.
I think what the players helped with was the timing of it. You do it now because this is the guy we want. And I think this was a sign. This was Jack Swarbrick saying to the players, you want him, you got him. Right? The speed of it. And I think it's something that the team is now told, okay, it's on you now. Okay, it's on you now. This is what you wanted. This is who you got. And
absolutely.
Your voice does matter. But at the end of the day, Jack Swarbrick made the decision that Jack Swarbrick felt. If the players thought it should be Marcus, but Jack was like, Marcus is not ready to be the head coach of Notre Dame. I'm sorry. Then he wouldn't have hired him.
Exactly. I completely agree with that. And I'll tell you right now, that's going to be the question that I ask Marcus Freeman on Monday. Is what did that mean to you to have those guys put their neck out for you and say that they wanted you as their head coach? That I'm excited to hear what he has. I know what he's going to say, but I want to hear him say it. And I'm going to try to make him cry. That's my goal.
You're going to be the one crying.
I know, right? That's such a great answer.
No, we're going to be objective, and when it needs to be criticized, we'll
I know.
criticize them. I mean, that's the reality.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Robert Foley with the super chat. Thank you very much. Brian, have you had any intel on possible new offensive line coach, wide receivers coach that they keep pulling in as special teams? I know we talked about this, but obviously Robert was a little late in. So Cliff Notes version, go.
So I've been told that Notre Dame has reached out possibly to Chris Watt coming back as the offensive line coach and Harry Heastand in some role. That's just talks. There's other people that they're going to consider. Right now, it's still an open spot. Receivers coach the same way. There's a chance they may move Lance Taylor there and then hire a running backs coach. We will see. But both are still very open. And no, I would not bring back Brian Polian, and I anticipate that they won't bring back Brian Polian. I don't think there's any interest at Notre Dame to retain Brian Polian. And Tim Priester, we don't know this, but Tim Priester reported this, and if Tim's reporting it, I trust it, that Brian Polian is going to be the new head coach at Lafayette College in Eastern Pennsylvania, which is a FBS school. It'd be a good job for that. Would be a place Brian Polian would fit.
That would be a good spot for him.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Jacob Watson with the super chat. What's the development of G looking like?
I haven't heard a lot about him. I don't really have anything on him, Jacob. Very raw, long and athletic. They like that about him, but very raw fundamentally and all those kind of things.
Thank you for the super chat, Chris. Very much appreciate that. And that is all the super chats. So guess what?
So let's go back to the top, man.
All the way back to 12:32.
And Vince, I would like to be able to put, just even if it's just kind of going through and putting up people's just the energy that's I want to be able to do that as well. So
okie dokie.
Yeah.
I can definitely do that.
Actually, I can just kind of pull these up and you can read them. How about that?
Okay, that's fine.
You monitor, you be the hall monitor. I'll bring up the chat, you read them, and we'll both answer.
I'll head to the bottom and monitor that. Okay, cool.
So
David Pollard, thank you very much. Thank you for commenting. I'm so used to saying thanks for the super chat.
Yep.
Is Del Alexander really headed to USC as the wide receiver coach? And is Brian Hartline set to be the new wide receiver coach at Notre Dame? Little ahead of the game on both of those, I would say.
I would encourage everyone not to get too wrapped up into internet rumors about who's going to be the next coach.
Yes.
Because what happens is the guy has a conversation. Hey, man, I'd love to have you back. Hey, appreciate it. And then all of a sudden it turns into
right.
What it is. And then it turns into a Brian Hartline says no, and he can use that on the recruiting trail. Well, hey, they tried to hire me and I said no, because Ohio State's where I want to be. And blah, blah, blah. So you got to be, you got to be careful with that.
Right there, the boards at irishbreakdown.com is where you're going to get your good intel, and of course, we'll give it to you as much as we can here on the show as well, because we don't deal in rumors, we deal in sourced information. So that's what I will say to that.
Yep. So
we do have a super chat at the bottom that I'll grab while you're looking for the next one. Patrick Barnes, thank you, Patrick. Sorry if it's already been asked, just jumped on. Any updates on how recruits are reacting to the coaching change? Favorable, obviously, but nothing that says, hey, I'm committing or, anything like that. But everything seems to be very favorable.
The big thing is I think this is going to really, really go a long way towards keeping the current class mostly intact. That's the really big thing. As long as they can do that.
Yeah, huge thing.
Yep. All right, Wayne Baker, here we go.
Wayne, how much are players making with NIL? Is NIL a recruiting advantage for Notre Dame? It's a recruiting advantage for anybody, but Notre Dame has actually done, from what I can tell and from what Brian has reported, even before the season when they were doing, visits and all those different things, Notre Dame is doing a good job with NIL. That's part of their package that they are showing kids that, you can use the Notre Dame brand and you can do all of these different things. So in the very early stages of all this NIL stuff, I feel like Notre Dame has done a good job. Now, they're going to have to continue to adapt to it, and they're going to have to continue to kind of narrow that focus and maybe individualize kids as they come through, things of that nature, but it's still very new. It's still very, very new. And I don't personally know any numbers that these kids are getting.
Because it's different for every kid. I mean, it's free market. I mean, it's like whatever they think you're worth. I mean, we're seeing Jarrett Patterson get stuff. I mean, we're seeing all types of kids get things. It's just different. Is it a recruiting advantage for Notre Dame? Absolutely.
Yes.
Because now there's things that you can, like Isaiah Foskey's got a clothing line coming out. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot going on that these kids can make money. And it's, hey, look, you come to Notre Dame, we're not going to pay you underhandedly. We're not going to do that. That's against the rules. We don't do that at Notre Dame. And they don't. But look, you come here, there's going to be opportunities for you. You need to support your family. Come here and ball out, because I guarantee you people are going to be willing to pay you. And not only are you balling out, but you're going to be at a school where you can get a tremendous business degree and then use that branding, whether you're an NFL player or not, use that branding, use that knowledge, use your name to go out there at the most prestigious university in the country, go out there and be successful in life, whether you end up being a great football player or not.
Now, I believe I'm accurate on this. Point. But the best player on Notre Dame's team right now, arguably Kyle Hamilton, maybe not arguably, right? You know what his major is?
I think it's arguably. I think Michael Mayer would have a little something about that. Yeah.
Sports marketing is his major. You don't think that might be applicable in his life moving forward? Right. You know what I mean? Like, exactly. You can couple all of it together and still be very successful.
Right. I've talked about this before. Like Todd Light took the money he made from the NFL and his education he got at Notre Dame and his own business sense and common sense and smarts and all that, but it was enhanced at Notre Dame. And he's used that he's bought businesses and then turned those businesses into something and then sold those for even way more than he, bought in. And he does stuff like that all the time. And, that's not something that necessarily, it can happen everywhere if you're a smart guy, but you have a greater chance of that level of success if you come to Notre Dame because it's Notre Dame and you're going to get a world-class education. David Jones, I just want to read this. I'm so pumped for Notre Dame football. It's cool to see the reaction from across the country, even former players that have never even played for Marcus Freeman. That right there is the biggest surprise for me.
Me too.
I talked to a dad. I won't say who it was. I talked to a dad of a former player yesterday, and he was let me just find it. It was kind of wild. I was like, your kid didn't even play for Marcus. Has your kid even met Marcus Freeman? But he said he just texted me out of the blue and was like, great job. Super excited for a great recruiting head coach of Freeman to take his over top. I asked him, and he said his son met Freeman once and he said he loved him and just met him once and loved him. And to the point where him and some of his former teammates are out there publicly advocating for Marcus Freeman. And I've heard I've heard stories like that 50 times. I met him once, man. I love that. And that's what I was talking about. Like he has that kind of personality where he walks into a room and he commands room.
It's engaging.
These are current NFL players, former NFL players that are meeting this 35-year-old guy. And they're just like, I want to come back to Notre Dame. I want some eligibility left. You know what I mean? Like
Justin Tuck tweeted, I got one more year of eligibility.
Yeah. I mean, you're seeing that. And it's if anyone that's been around Marcus Freeman for 5 minutes is like, yeah, okay, I get it. Yeah, sure. I get it. Makes total sense.
Got a couple super chats down here at the bottom. I want to grab Felix. Thank you very much. Our Canadian friend north of the border. Just for fun, would you rather get Hartline as wide receiver coach or Tony Alford as running back coach and move Lance Taylor to the wide receiver group, his job that he had in the NFL and the position that he played, by the way, as well? For me personally, because I know Tony Alford and I know Lance Taylor, I want that combination.
I can't give an objective answer to that. I mean, it's a great question.
It's a great question.
First of all, there's not a wrong answer.
No,
there's not a bad option there.
Either way,
that's a win either way.
Yes.
But Coach Alford is someone who I have a tremendous amount of respect for as a man, as a father, as a husband. He's helped me out in the past. I would be thrilled if he came back. I don't see it happening.
No, me neither.
I mean, if with all due respect, with where his kids are, he's got one son in college, one son in high school, he's in a great situation. And honestly, right now, if he was going to leave Ohio State, I would think it'd be to go to his alma mater, who just fired their head football coach. Now, he might be too pissed off now that they've passed him over 3 freaking times for bad coaches they've had to then go fire. And if they don't hire him now, then they just need to disband the football program. First of all,
they screwed it, especially the last time.
Oh, God, Steve Adazio. Raise your hand if you saw Steve Adazio failing in Colorado coming. I mean, it's just stupid. Just stupid. But
they have messed up.
But I would imagine that would be more fun. But other than that, like, I'm sorry, you've got Travion Henderson the next 2 years. You're going to have to offer me a lot to leave Ohio State and not coach this kid for the next 2 years. You're going to have to offer me a lot.
That's fair.
I don't know if there's enough money out there for that other than a head coaching job, in my opinion.
Zach with the super chat. Thank you very much. How do you feel about Miami going after Mario Cristobal? I would like to see Miami become good again.
Great comment at the end, though. I love that comment because I've said this before. There are certain programs that when they're good, it's good for college football, and Miami is one of those programs for me. Zach.
Absolutely.
I do.
And so is USC. You know what I mean? Like, as much as I was kind of like, oh man, Lincoln Riley, that he might turn it around over there. It was like, okay, but you know what? This is good because it's going to raise the stakes. I think Miami is a perfect example as well because they're obviously in a different conference. That means they raise the ACC. Right.
Exactly.
And Notre Dame needs the ACC to be better. Okay.
It's good for college football. It's good for the ACC. It's good for Notre Dame. 100%.
Yes.
Now, as far as Miami going after Mario Cristobal, I would be real careful if I was Mario Cristobal because that whole program's a train wreck right now in every way possible. I mean, just leadership. You want to go somewhere where there's great leadership.
Yeah.
And right now, Miami has terrible leadership. But if I was Miami, I would absolutely go after Mario Cristobal. I think he's I don't think he's a great football coach. I think he's a good football coach. He is not someone that I would have pursued if I was Notre Dame, to be completely honest with you. He's not. He's not someone I would have gone after. But is he a good football coach? Yes. Is he someone that could win at Miami? Yes. And here's the thing. He's a Miami native. He played at America. He played at he's from Miami. He played at Miami. He's coached at Miami. He was the head coach at Florida International. He had some of the best seasons Florida International ever had. That talk about a train wreck of a place. That Florida International is an absolute dumpster fire of a place. But Mario Cristobal had some success there. I mean, took him to back-to-back bowl games, and then he went 3-9 the next year, and they fired him because that place is filled apparently filled a bunch of morons.
Yeah.
And he's had good success with Florida. They went 9-4, 12-2, 4-3. Won the Pac-12 last year in a shortened season. They went 4-3 because they went to the Fiesta Bowl and got blasted by Iowa State. And then this year they're 10-2. And honestly, would be a 11-1 if Joe Moorhead doesn't get rushed to the hospital before the Stanford game. I mean, his disappointing season at Oregon this year is 10-2. Take that, right? Take that. And obviously, I think he'll be able to recruit there because he is a Miami native. He played at the U, and he played at the U when it was still a pretty decent program. You know what I mean? He was there from 89 to 92.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, Miami having a couple good teams during that stretch. So yeah. And he started. He played like he was an all big. I'm looking at it now. He was in 1992. He was an first team all Big East offensive tackle. I mean, so it's not like he was just some bench warmer that wasn't a good football player. I mean, he played at the U when the U was the U. Now, it was the tail end of it.
Right.
But it was still the U.
Kevin with a super chat. I heard Kamari Rogers has interest in Notre Dame again. Would he still be a take? And have you heard anything about the knee injury?
They would take him. I think some of the talk about how Notre Dame was getting ready to do an in-home, some of that was a little bit too, further along than they were from what the sources that we had last week. There's interest, and I was told by a source that if he was interested, Notre Dame would be interested in him. They'd need to see the medical clear out, but he would have to pursue them. That's the thing, because there's when you turn down Notre Dame the way he did, not disrespectfully or anything like that, but more the reasons why. I just don't think he didn't think he was a fit and those kind of things. That's a big red flag in regards to then going after a kid, because you don't want to have to convince a kid too hard that he can survive here. It's going to take some work, but the way that he did it, again, not in a disrespectful manner, I think he needs to kind of be he needs to show some interest in you first. I've heard he's done that. As far as the knee injury, I haven't heard anything. It was in September. And so, obviously it's going to be, kind of hopefully during the summer, he'll be able to get back to full go. But, that would be a bit of a concern for me, honestly.
Sure.
But I mean, Kamari Rogers is really good. I mean, really good. And if you think he can come back to being healthy, then go for it. Because, hey, you got room now. Devin Moore decommitted.
Yes, you do.
I mean, so yeah, if Kamari Rogers wants to come and he especially if he somewhat initiates that conversation, when I look at him, heck yes. And as long as the medical's checked out,
right?
Would I go after Kamari Rogers? Heck to the yes. Yes, absolutely. I'm seeing a lot of this from people.
It's true.
Yeah, from Jeff DeMonk. The video made me want to put pads on and hit someone. It was awesome. I would encourage you not to do that. The only person we have in this chat that headbutts people is Makes AK. We need everybody else to not be doing that. Do not headbutt your secretaries. Do not run through walls.
Just because you think you can,
right,
doesn't mean you can.
Justin Hancock, it's a great day to be a Notre Dame fan. The video of Coach Freeman being introduced gave me chills.
It did.
So all that stuff is, I mean, there's a yeah. Irish Cubby, the decision to hire Freeman may be the only thing my two brothers, my father, and myself have ever agreed upon unanimously as far as the direction Notre Dame needs to go. So pumped. Go Irish.
That's a great comment, man. That's a great comment. Irish Cubby, too. Good choices.
Yep. Ethan O'Connor, did I hear yesterday that you were from Bath, Brian? I am from Lima and had no clue you were from the area. Yes, I went to Bath Elementary School and Bath Middle School. Was born at Lima Memorial Hospital and lived there till I was 15. And then I moved back for about a year in 2006-ish, 6-7. And I was a youth pastor at a Nazarene church there. It was an interesting time. And then shortly after that, I met my wife and we had a somewhat brief courtship, but we actually got married in Lima because she's from Colorado and has family everywhere. The vast majority of my family's in the Lima area. And so we felt it would make sense to do it there. And we got married there and got in our car. And actually the first thing we did is we went down to Cincinnati. This is how I love my wife, I swear. But what we did the first day we got married, we went to a Reds game and we walk into the stadium. We were running a little behind and we walk into the stadium. The first thing I see is Ken Griffey Jr. launch a pitch into the right field bleachers. So that was like, it was Ken Griffey Jr. blessing my marriage is what that was. Okay.
He had the sweetest swing.
He did. And either that night or the next night, we watched Memphis beat Kansas beat Memphis in the championship game in college basketball. But yes, I'm from Lima. And I still go back frequently. My grandma's from there and I have a lot of family there. So yeah. John Kristovic, I want to play LSU in the playoff next year. I'm torn on that.
Yeah, because I don't want Brian Kelly getting to the playoff. So
call me petty, but yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No success.
Yep. Mark Avalone, will college football playoff expansion encourage more cross-conference big games like we see in week 1 recently by reducing the importance of undefeated or one-loss driving who gets in? I hope so, Mark. I think that's a great take in regards to hoping that this happens.
Yeah.
I would hope that because now you need to start
going the opposite direction.
But see, here's the thing, though. You need to be real careful about seeding because the first round is now at someone else's place. The 9 seed versus the 8 seed, the 10 seed versus the 7 seed. That's where your strength of schedule can come in to play there. Because right now you're going to get a bye if you win one of the if you win the SEC, you're going to get a bye. If you win the Big Ten, chances are pretty good you're going to get a bye. So you have to look at that, but
right. I
think you're playing for seeding now. But the other thing is coaches are got to be smart, right? Coaches have to be smart by saying, okay, do we care more about having that 12-0 record, or do we more care about challenging ourselves in a way that allows us to be competitive once we get there? That's the angle that's what I'm curious about. And so I hope that that's the case, Mark, but I don't know. And part of it too is the committee determines that. If the committee puts emphasis on strength of schedule above other attributes, then guess what schools are going to have to do? Strengthen their schedules if they want to get in. So that's going to be part of it as well. Gareth Kalfas says, Brian, thanks for all the great insider knowledge through the coaching shuffle. Any insights into the Polian Alexander Quinn have been receiving? Any updates on Chris Watt? Nothing that we haven't already said. I just wanted to bring that up. Again, for people that are just joining us, Brian Polian is going to leave at the end of the season to be the head coach at Lafayette College, according to Tim Priester. And from my understanding is Jeff Quinn is not coming back. I don't have word one way or the other on Del Alexander. And Chris Watt, it's just there's some interest there. That's as far as it goes right now. You know what I mean? So it's a little early for that. Here you go. Question: chances of Freeman sealing the deal with Moore, Merriweather, Williams, and Walker. Merriweather and Williams, I feel pretty decent about. Moore, I don't really know where that one stands. And then Walker, I mean, I'll be surprised if he doesn't sign with Michigan. And if he does sign with Notre Dame, I think that's going to be a big coup for for Marcus Freeman and Tommy Rees. Very, very big one. Jeff Luke, what traits make a good special teams coach? Traits. A good special teams coach has to be someone who's a very good teacher and a very sound fundamental coach, because so much of special teams, Vince, you tell me if you agree or disagree with this, so much of special teams is about discipline and fundamentals.
Mhm.
It is. You have to be disciplined. Here's your lane. You can't vary from your lane. You may think, but I see the ball. No, stay in your lane. Proper taking on blocks, block destruction, understanding leverage. I've got a wrong arm in this guy. I got to attack this guy on this angle. There's a level of discipline and fundamentals. You've got to be a good teacher to be a special teams coach. And then like with offense and defense, you've got to be creative. You've got to have some ability to scheme. You've got to be prepared on how to defend fake punts, how to defend kick returns a certain way. You've got to have some creativity on how to generate kick returns. But really it comes down to discipline, fundamentals, and then picking the right personnel. That to me is one of the biggest aspects of a good special teams coach, is someone who can look at players on the team and say, yeah, that guy may be a third string wide receiver, but I think he could be a great part of our coverage unit or our return unit, something like that.
And I will also say the willingness of the head coach to allow you to use starters, et cetera, on special teams, I think is huge. There was a turnaround on special teams once that started to occur at Notre Dame, and I think that's huge. And I'm not saying Marcus Freeman is one way or the other. I'm just saying get your best players on the field, right? And then you sprinkle in other guys who can contribute in different ways. Like Brian said, it's the selection of the players. Like they may not be good at this, this, and this, but they're really good at this. And then you use that ability on a special team someplace. And I think the combination of the two, because you're going to have starters and you've got offensive guys mixed in with defensive guys, and you got all these different things. And to put it all together for one cohesive unit, I think takes talent. And that's not the easiest thing to do.
It's like Bo Bauer. Bauer was a really undisciplined linebacker early in his career. But Brian Polian, to his credit, saw something in him and said, let's give this kid a shot here. And Bo Bauer, if Bo Bauer never starts a game at Notre Dame, he will end his career with a very significant impact.
Yes.
Because he was a great special teams player. That matters. And so kudos to the staff for seeing that potential in him and saying, hey, this kid is fast, straight line. This kid's physical. This kid just wants to play. Let's see if this works. And then they put him in roles that were successful. And that's what good coaches do. Utah Irish 237. If Indy hires a great O-line coach, what kind of realistic improvements can they make in the weeks leading up to the bowl game? Could we expect good to great O-line, or is it just wishful thinking? Jeff Quinn's going to coach the offensive line for the bowl game.
Yeah, I took the words right out of my mouth. The changes aren't going to happen before the bowl game. They happen in the offseason, which is after the bowl game. So you're not going to see any – I mean, you can see improvement, but it's not going to be because there's a new O-line coach.
Yeah. And look, Jeff Quinn deserves to be the offensive line coach for the bowl game as long as he wants it. Now, if he takes another job, that may be a different story. But if Jeff Quinn wants to coach the bowl game, you absolutely allow Jeff Quinn to coach the bowl game. He's earned that right. He's their offensive line coach. He's the offensive line coach, was part of a team that went 11-1 and earned a right to either play in the playoff or play in a bowl game. As long as he wants to be here, you let him coach. Now, here's what Marcus Freeman is going to have to do. Let's just say hypothetically Notre Dame makes the playoff. You need to get commitments right now. So like Sunday, Notre Dame gets in. So let's say tomorrow, Oklahoma State gets beat, Iowa beats Michigan, all that, and Notre Dame's in. You need to get a commitment from everyone on your staff that's not someone you've already accepted a job to come back. People that you aren't going to have next year. So let's just say hypothetically that Brian Polian, Jeff Quinn, and Del Alexander aren't coming back. Hypothetically. I'm not saying they aren't. Polian, we know. You sit down and say, okay, can you commit to two more games? Commit. You're going to sign a contract. You are not leaving Notre Dame. You're going to handle all the responsibilities that are this, that, and the other through the championship game, or if we lose before. But if we make it a championship game, you're staying with us. And if they say yes, but I've got to do this, you say, okay, then just you go focus on that job, and then you figure something else out. But it wouldn't be like, okay, let's just, again, hypothetical, just to make a point. I don't think this is going to happen. Is Quinn says, no, I'm going to leave now. Okay, then you can bring in Harry Heastan or somebody else, maybe, right? If it's something that can happen quickly, but that's going to be a little tougher transition. That's going to be a real tough transition. Having said that, it also could be an opportunity for, if let's say Polian's like, hey, look, I got to go recruit, because look, December and January is a pretty important time for 1AA coaches for recruiting, right? And if Brian Poling is going to become a 1AA coach, he may say, hey, look, I can't commit to 2 more. I can commit to 1 game, but I can't commit to 2. So if we're in a bowl game, then it may be a different story. But let's say they're in the playoff, they may not be able to. Fine. You go coach special team. You go be the head coach. And then let's say you promote Nick Lazinski just for the postseason to be the special teams coach along with,
whoever,
somebody else, right?
Yeah.
That could be a thing where then you get someone a chance to sort of interview for the job and that kind of thing. But there's a lot of moving parts, but you need to get commitments from certain coaches that however far we go, you're going to be along for that ride. But if a coach on the current staff wants to stay through the bowl game, it would make sense. Because you could say, hey, bring in a new receivers coach, but that new receivers coach is going to have to learn Tommy Rees's offense and do all those kind of things, which takes an off season to learn. Dell Alexander already knows it. I don't think he's a good coach, but he knows the offense. He knows the kids. He knows what they're trying to accomplish. If he wants to be here, he should be allowed to be here. That's how I look at it. That's just my 2 cents. Okay. Kenny Moore says Quinn should coach the bowl game. After that, you thank him for his services. 100%.
Yeah,
Kenny.
that's exactly 100%. What you do, because he signed on to be the coach the whole year, and if he hasn't done anything to get fired, right? I mean, you're not going to fire him, right? And look, if Chris Watt is the next guy, and that's all well and good, right? But to come in and try to coach a team with 2 weeks advance notice, right? Because that's what it would end up being. It's borderline impossible, and to expect an improvement in that amount of time is borderline impossible. And that's not something that anybody would be asked to do because that's not fair to them.
Right. Now, someone like Chris Watt could make a faster transition.
Because he knows most of those guys except for the freshman class.
And he's coached here before. Correct.
Yes, exactly.
Correct.
Right.
But in most instances, it would be a little tougher.
And he's unique because the team he's coming from is not preparing for a bowl.
Right.
So his season's over. So that's different than if you go get an established O-line coach who happens to be preparing for a bowl at his current school. He's probably staying through that bowl.
Right.
So, I mean, those are all different scenarios that you have to remember. And it all makes sense.
Irish for life. Hey, IB Nation, God bless all. Made it, which is worthy a celebration for me. Appreciate you being here.
Love it.
My man.
Love it. Thanks for coming. Thank you for coming.
D-Rock Irish. Good day, everyone. No one does it better than Notre Dame. No one. I think I remembered hearing that before. Go Irish. OC Irish fan, he emailed me yesterday. Coach D, a reminder about O-line development before bowl game. Thanks. Go Irish. I believe we addressed that, right? We talked earlier in the show about the improvement that Jeff Quinn can make as the O-line coach, and then the fact that a new coach is not going to make it. But really, I think just continue to do what you do in the pass game. Fundamentals. Play hard, play hard, play hard, play hard, play hard. That's the 2 mantras that the offensive line coach has to have during the bowl game. Preparing for the bowl game, whichever game that is. Let me see here. Go ahead, Vince.
John says Jeff Quinn is not here. I hope he went with Kelly. I mean, if he's not here, he's on the recruiting trail, number one. So
yeah, Jeff Quinn, he's still at Notre Dame.
Right.
Yeah. Now, could that change? Sure.
Of course it could, but right now it has not.
Our thing, if he wants to coach the bowl game, he should coach the bowl game.
Right.
Are there some now? Here's the thing I will say: if he doesn't want to be here, and you know who your next O-line coach is going to be, and you're playing in a bowl game, not the playoff, there's some advantages to that.
Sure.
Because it gives your new O-line coach 15 additional practices to work with that team.
That's a good point. And again, we've talked about this. If you're not in the playoff, the bowl game outside of a paycheck just doesn't mean a whole lot. Now, would I think it's freaking great that Marcus Freeman would lead this team to a New Year's Six bowl win? Yeah, I think it'd be pretty cool compared to the previous.
It'd be important. It's important. It's very important to win whatever game you play in.
It's a different kind of importance.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a momentum. It's a perception. Sure. Scott Wolfel. Hey, y'all. How y'all feeling about the Freeman intro into the team? Awesome. Tried my best Southern accent. How y'all feeling about the Freeman intro to the team? Awesome. Tried my best Southern accent and did pretty good, Scott. Love it. Love it, man. Bless your heart.
Goodness gracious.
All righty.
Steve, while you're looking, he says, heard anything on Logan Diggs staying or leaving?
Not a whole lot, other than I think that Tommy Rees staying at Notre Dame and Lance Taylor staying are things that are going to help convince him to stay.
And he was
we'll see, yeah,
on social media saying good things
right
all week, so I think it's okay.
Some of the shade being it's hard to find some comments today
I know.
that aren't super chats because there's so much of this is just shade.
I know, it is what it is.
Scott asks, heard that there is a possibility Brian Hartline and Coach Black have been reached out to. Can you confirm? I can't confirm either one of those other than just the fact that I have heard from no direct sources that, obviously Marcus Freeman and Brian Hartline played together at Ohio State. They're close. They both played in the NFL for a little bit. I would imagine Marcus Freeman's going to reach out to him. I think that I would be careful with getting involved in too many of the rumors. As I've said, think of all the coaching rumors this year that turned out not to be true. Remember when in this very chat, like this very show, we had people talking about how, well, Dennis Dodd's reporting that it's going to be Luke Fickell and Brian Kelly and Jack Swarbrick may wait till after the playoff to hire him, right? And what did I say to you then? Ignore the noise. Forget that, right? ESPN did a whole show about they had Pat Fitzgerald's name listed. I mean, Pat Narduzzi's name listed.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like it's nonsense. So just this may be true. It may be true. We've talked about Larry Black possibly being an option should one of two things happen. One, Mike Elson leaves to go with Brian Kelly. That didn't happen. Or two, if Mike Elson is either one. So here's the thing. If Mike Elson's the D coordinator and they hire a new linebacker and D line coach, it tells me Marcus Freeman is going to truly take a head coaching role. Because that means you've now got 5 assistants on defense and 5 on offense, right? So I don't know that that's going to happen. I'm just kind of throwing that out there. If they move Mike Elson to linebacker, and let's say he is the D coordinator and linebackers coach, then yes, you could definitely reach out to Larry Black. Larry Black is the D-line coach at Toledo. He's someone that was at Notre Dame and worked with Mike Elson. I'm told that Mike Elson has a ton of respect for Larry Black. I know for a fact, because I've talked to Larry Black about Mike Elston, he has a ton of respect for Mike Elston. And a lot of the veteran players know Larry Black because he worked with them when they were, like the Adamiolas know him. Myron Tungamo and Kurt Heinrich know him. They played for him. So he would be someone that would certainly be worth a look. And he was a guy that they knew from recruiting, and he did a good job with them as well. So if Mike Elston's not coaching the D-line for whatever reason, Larry Black would I would imagine would be one of the guys that would get an interview from Marcus Freeman for that position.
I want to throw this up while you're looking for the next one. James says, interested in a Notre Dame versus Ohio State Rose Bowl. Not possible. It's Pac-10 versus Big 12. So yeah, Notre Dame's not going to the only way Notre Dame goes to a Rose Bowl is like last year when
it's a playoff game.
It's a playoff game.
Right.
That's the only, and the Rose Bowl wasn't even in the Rose Bowl last year. So that's the only way.
Mm-hmm.
Just wanted to put that out there.
Yep.
Oh, and here's another good one. Booney, do y'all think Kyle Hamilton will stay with Freeman being announced as head coach and go Irish? No, I don't. Because Kyle Hamilton's going to be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. There's no reason for him to come back.
I think the only comeback that we're going to see from Kyle Hamilton is what we've talked about for weeks, which is if they make the playoff, I think he'll come back for the playoff. We've been saying that for weeks.
Yeah.
That if they make the playoff, that's going to get reported as if it's breaking news. We've been saying it for weeks. If they make the playoff, he'll come back.
Yeah.
And honestly, if they're not in the playoff, then I don't think he'll come back. So we shall see.
Right.
John Kristovic said, "Will Brian Kelly be coaching the bowl game for LSU?"
No.
I don't know if I know the answer to that.
Well, I mean, he doesn't know the offense. He doesn't know the defense. He
didn't know the defense of Notre Dame. Doesn't mean anything. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. If he's just a head coach, though,
if he's just the guy in there saying go for it on 4th and things of that nature.
Here's how we're going to practice. Here's how we're going to prepare.
Most of the time, a new head coach is sitting up in the press box in the in the owner's suite, the president's box, things like that. They're not usually on the field when they get hired before the bowl game. But I mean, heck, you never know, man. So I may have said Big 12. May say K says, did Vince just say Pac-10 versus Big 12? I apologize. Big 10 versus Pac-12. I may have
Look, y'all, we're running on fumes right now. Okay. Like,
it's my bad.
Yeah. Cut us some slack, Mace
bad.
AK. I mean, this is the same guy that headbutts his secretary every time something good happens in Notre Dame.
I know, right?
You know,
She might be dead now. Just saying.
No, one of these days he's going to go at her and she's going to slide step and hit him with a 2x4. So we're not going to see Mace for a couple days. Timeout Tom said, hope it's Chris Watt and Harry Heastan as special advisor. Okay, so we've been speaking a lot of things into existence, and so far they've really worked out really well. So I'm just going to throw it out there. Look, there's a lot of good O-line coaches out there. A lot of good on. You're right there, Money. You like checking
like
on
a little bump. I just need it was bothering me.
Seeing if the grease is there and all. You know, got the gel and everything in the right spot.
I'm Italian, so I excrete oils.
Okay,
you know,
whatever. All right, moving on. Hope it's Chris Watt and Harry Heastan as a special advisor. Look, there's a lot of good O-line coaches out there. There's no question about it. I don't know how I would feel about Chris Watt as an O-line coach all by himself at this sort of age. But whether it's Harry Heastan as a special advisor or Harry Heastan still living in South Bend and just helping Chris Watt as a former player of his who he cares about like he did in 2020,
right,
then I'm all for that. I mean, if there's some sort of either whether it's an official Harry Heastan help or an unofficial Harry Heastan help, but if Chris Watt's the O-line coach and Harry Heastan is involved just for a year or two in some way, shape, form, or fashion, I'm all about that. Because you got to remember, Chris Watt and Tommy Rees were teammates in college. He knows the offense Tommy Rees likes to run. He was an NFL player. He'd still be playing in the NFL if it wasn't for injuries. Let's keep that in mind. Chris Watt's still a young dude.
And he was playing at a high level.
He was starting for the Chargers. Yeah, I mean, he had like one somewhat healthy year, and he was a pretty good player that year for the Chargers. Yeah. I think Chris Watt would be a very good coach. We've already talked about the impact he would have. And, you know, I think that would be what I'd be all about that. I'd be all on board because that's a former Notre Dame player that actually has coaching experience, unlike some of the other Notre Dame players that didn't necessarily have, you know, strong coaching backgrounds. His is not very extensive, but it's impressive. I mean, he was basically co-offensive line coach for a Joe Moore Award finalist. And, you know, now this year he had a full year of experience working with kids that don't have nearly the talent that the group he had last year had. And I think that kind of struggle is going to be good for Chris Watt because his 1 year as a coach at Notre Dame, he has some dudes to work with, you know?
No doubt.
So, yeah, he had some dudes to work with. So apparently I'm now at the spot where I was talking with the accent. So I'm going to
so is up there. LSU apparently has said that Kelly won't coach the Bulls.
Okay.
Boom. Go ahead.
I'm glad people enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. Even my man Jarrett Grace enjoyed it. So appreciate that. Brian had gumbo and grits. We Vince, you haven't. You were you there with the last little it wasn't there at the last preseason party where the other place we'd go to, Michelle would have that little preseason party and they'd have gumbo. So I have had gumbo before.
No, I missed out on all the perks of being there. I just got jumped with all your work. That's how that went. Yeah, thanks, buddy.
Sorry.
Like they canceled the Christmas party. No perks whatsoever.
Sorry. It's Santillo. Love the message board. I'm sure glad I joined. Thank you. You are welcome, and we thank you for joining. We had about 200 people sign up last couple days. It's been wild. We love it. We love it. Tyler asks, how long y'all think Brian practiced this? Okay, so I always do stuff like that for fun. Like my wife will tell you, I've spoken with a Southern accent before. How long did I practice it? I practiced it on Sean when he called me about 5 minutes before the show started.
Yeah.
So that's how long I practiced it. So, and then I also watched Sweet Home Alabama the other day. So, you know, that helps me kind of practice.
There's that reference.
Those fake Southern accents. No.
I
thought that was a funny
movie that you came up with when you were talking
because there were so many fake Southern accents, you know, from people trying to talk Southern that aren't actually really Southern.
Which is good. I just didn't see romantic comedy.
The worst Southern accent.
Oh,
there's two. There's a two-way tie. And James Vanderbeek, I don't want your life. That was terrible. And then Nick Cage and Con Air had maybe even a worse Southern accent.
I don't want your life.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes.
That was great.
Yes.
That's
that
great.
was the two horrible Southern accents.
That is funny.
Yes.
We do have a super chat, and then I'll let you get back to that stuff. Chris Burns, thank you very much. Best start of the Freeman era would be for Notre Dame to face Bama in a New Year's Day bowl game and beat them soundly.
That'd be pretty great. That'd be a pretty great way to start.
Yeah. You think the excitement is there now.
Yeah.
Launch that into the offseason.
Yeah. Justin Herwick with a really good question. Justin said, on recruiting, is the difference between Ohio State and Notre Dame simply a matter of the head coach being a dog on the trail? Both are north and have cold weather. No, there's one big difference, in my opinion, two big differences. One is Ohio has far better in-state talent that they can tap into than Notre Dame. So they don't have to recruit. They have to recruit nationally. There's not enough kids in Ohio for them to pack their roster to win a title. There's just not. You have to recruit from Pennsylvania, and you get some from the South and all that kind of stuff. You have to be able to do that. Having said that, the other advantage is there are some kids at Ohio State can get into school that Notre Dame can't. There just are. And there's some other advantages that I don't really care to get into. But really what it comes down to it, Justin, is if Notre Dame is winning and Notre Dame is successful, then they can recruit at an elite level. It'll be a different type of kid, but it'll be, they can recruit at an elite level. That's, yeah. Yep. So, yeah. And then Sean Davis said, I did not anticipate Brian having this skill in his back pocket. I got all types of talents y'all don't know about.
He's a Swiss Army knife, okay, people, so get used to it.
Y'all don't even
know.
Thank
you for the super chat, Chris. Really appreciate it. By the way, I'm not sure what this is in reference to, but I know you're not down where I am. Oh, now, of course, I say that and I can't find it. Oh, here we go. So that was about a minute ago, so I'm not sure what that means. So just putting it out there. I don't know if that has anything to do with anything you're waiting for. Patrick Barnes with the super chat. Thank you very much. Watching Freeman address the team versus when Kelly addresses the team reminds me of how inspiring and motivating a player's coach can be. Yeah, it's night and day. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, and I will also say this. It is different because Marcus Freeman knew every one of those guys that were in that room, and they were fired up for him. That's who they wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's still a stark difference between that introduction and Brian Kelly's introduction to the LSU players, where they all just kind of sat there with like dumb looks on their faces the whole time, like didn't clap, didn't, it was just nothing. And he starts it off with, my name's Brian Kelly. Like, no kidding. Did you need to wear a name tag?
I'm your new head football coach.
Yeah.
No way.
No. Mind blown. Like, what?
It was all for the camera.
I know.
And half of that they took from a past Notre Dame. Did you see Riley Fangman's tweet?
Hilarious. It
was all that, right?
She retweeted it, I think.
Yeah, but it was no. Did you see her tweet where she like put the two videos side by side and LSU basically just jacked a bunch of
Freeman. I mean, our buddy Freeman did that originally.
Okay, but no. The point is,
so
LSU jacked a bunch of stuff from Notre Dame.
100%.
That's the point.
Yes. Here we go. Crosby, thank you for the super chat. Off topic, but what is OU's recruiting pitch now to differentiate their program? Could Notre Dame flip any commits?
I'd have to go look. I don't remember there being a lot of commits. And look, a lot of those kids committed there to play for Lincoln Riley, which is why like Raleek Brown is already he's already flipped to USC. The quarterback in the 23 class, Malachi Nelson, has already flipped to USC. I don't know. I'm pulling up their class now. Nicholas Anderson's a guy they could look at. He's the kid from Texas that they tried to recruit. I personally would not.
Yeah, you weren't a big fan.
The only two kids that I've ever said I really think Notre Dame should go after, in my opinion, is Gavin Sawchuk to a degree, and Jake Taylor, the offensive lineman. Those are the two guys I flat out would go with. If go after if you could. Yeah.
Smith 17441A. Brian, you got to update the picture that they show on 365 Sports Podcast I watched your segment and thought someone was stealing your
I
identity.
didn't give them that picture. They didn't ask me for a picture. They just like went online and tried to find some weird picture. I don't know
that
what.
was. I thought that's really funny. Someone's trying to steal your identity.
I look at the picture and I was like, it's like, what the
Is
hell?
it like a really old one?
It was like something I did. It was like some screenshot they got from me being on like ABC Kickoff. Like I haven't been on there in like 3 years. So it's
you
like
didn't have a beard.
no
so
beard.
Yeah.
My chunkiness was not hidden by the beard. So it's just like full. And I had like this, like the first like. I'm like, come on, y'all. Seriously.
It's an action shot, man.
Seriously.
You have to in action.
Hey, we got some little special something for y'all today. I wanted to bring on a former player, someone that I know has been hoping to see a change and is really someone who feels that Notre Dame is a program that's close, that just needs it. And I wanted to kind of get his take on what he thinks about this hire. So I want to welcome back to the show my good friend and Notre Dame graduate, former NFL offensive lineman, former Notre Dame NFL tight end, former Notre Dame tight end, Oscar McBride. Oscar, thank you so much for joining us today, my friend.
Of course, brother. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And you're right. I probably should have been a lineman, but my pride wouldn't let me do that.
Well, you came to Notre Dame like 195, and then you left at like 395. You know, so
stop. Easy.
Oh, wow. He's our guest.
You know what? Last time he was in town, he didn't get up with me. We were supposed to go to the range for a little bit, so I'm a little salty about that.
I know. I owe you, bro. We'll go next time for sure.
Did me?
By the way,
the full arsenal on the table. Did that kind of scare you a little bit? Is that what it was?
No. This is still America. I get it.
Okay.
But let me say this. I did get my IB gear. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. If I would have known I was going to be on, I'd be rocking the lid right now. But
no worries.
I didn't know, man.
We appreciate you. Well, look, I just wanted to get your thoughts as an alum. Your thoughts on Marcus Freeman as the new head coach of Notre Dame, and what do you think what's the future hold in your opinion for Notre Dame now that the Marcus Freeman era has begun?
Well, let me say this: it's unanimous for the guys that I'm on the group chats with, going back to the guys from '86 and '87, all the way up through the guys to '95 and '96. It's unanimous. We're excited to see Marcus Freeman. We're excited for the energy and the fire that he brings to the program. And quite frankly, we thought that was the only move we had. If we were to go in another direction, we run the risk of losing all types of recruits. We run the risk of losing kids that are current players in the program who can transfer without penalty since their coach left during the season and go other places and into other programs. As we all saw, the transfer portal was phenomenal for a lot of teams this year, including the resurgent Cincinnati team who took us out at home. So we didn't want to contribute to that, the betterment of other teams. I think Jack Swarbrick made the right move. Honestly, I think that was probably the only move he had, unless he wanted to set the Notre Dame football program back 5 to 7 years in rebuilding its brand, rebuilding the trust factor with recruits and getting guys on campus who are 4 and 5 star, which Brian, you and I have talked about ad nauseum about getting those types of players on campus. I think Freeman's a dynamic recruiter. I think he's a defensive mind. As we've seen, the defense have been playing better week after week as they start to learn the scheme and the system. It's helpful. The Tommy Rees stays when you look at the staff, right, and you look at the nonverbal communication that's going on, the fact that there are no kids on the team entering the transfer portal, the fact that we didn't really lose any significant. I don't want to disrespect anybody. We didn't lose anybody significant on the staff. I think our core staff stayed and is intact, up to and including our strength and conditioning coach, Mike Elston. I mean, God, keeping Coach Elston was huge. Keeping Tommy Rees is huge.
Matt Bayless is who you're. Yeah.
Bayless. I mean, it spoke to the level of trust and respect that he had amongst his peers. I think it's phenomenal hire. I think we're in great hands. I think we can look for a resurgent Notre Dame football program that not only will get to the college football playoff soon. But we'll have a chance to legitimately win one.
And see, that's the thing, Oscar, the reason I wanted to bring you on is because you and I have talked for years about this notion that Notre Dame can't win it again is not one that you and the people you played with believe, because people act like, you got into Notre Dame with a 2.2 and an 8.20 and didn't have to go to class, right? Like when you were at Notre Dame, you and Irv and Derek were just kind of hanging out and eating Cheetos, not going to class, right? Like that's this, like all of us, like when you were coming up in Florida, nobody was offering money to recruits back then, right? Like there's this false narrative about like how it was so different then, and Notre Dame could beat the U back then because you guys beat the Bama of this era twice. I know you weren't on the first team, but like Notre Dame, the guys you played with, y'all beat the Alabama of that era twice. And you guys had to go to class. You guys had to do all those things. It wasn't different for you. So just do you see Notre Dame correct as a program that can and should be expected to compete for championships? No excuses.
I agree with that 100%. And the notion that we should, not want to be a part of the college football playoff because we're going to get beat, like that is what Coach Holtz would call, the loser's limp. We should be there. We're supposed to be there. As a matter of fact, our 93 team is the poster child for why there should have been a college football playoff back then. You have to be the best, you got to beat the best, to coin a cliche, right? So I feel like we just need to be better in those moments. And I think Freeman will have us better prepared, a la Coach Holtz having 2 weeks to prepare for a college football playoff. So I'm excited, man. I all of my brothers are pumped. Let me tell you, man, the last 3 days, I've woken up to well over 200 text messages in my group chats. And
I woke up to one from you one day.
You're right. You're right. Well, when everything broke, I was like, Driz, come on, man, give me some insight. Tell me what's going on, man. Is this fake news, man? Like, what's going on? So, I excited, shocked and not shocked. And, and let me say this about Brian Kelly, and I'll put this to bed. Our Notre Dame faithful, we have soon forgotten how Brian Kelly came to us, which was a part of the reason I was never really a big fan. Again, Driz, you and I talked about this. The guy takes Cincinnati to a Power 5 bowl game. First time, I think at that time, Cincinnati had been to a New Year's Day bowl. And he's doing a press conference about being the head coach at the University of Notre Dame while his team is preparing for this game. So, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. I mean, he came to us that way. I don't feel like, leopards don't change spots. He sent his Cincinnati team back then a text message. He sent the Notre Dame football team a notes message apologizing for not getting out in front of it. I think that's just kind of how he does business, and I think we could expect that.
Tried to poach current Notre Dame coaches before he informed the administration he was leaving.
Yeah. No thanks.
We'll Oscar, I'm going to tell people this, Oscar, you're going to get mad at me, but I've been begging Oscar for years to share his real opinion on Brian Kelly, and he wouldn't do it. Why? Out of respect for the University of Notre Dame. And I'm serious. That flat out. That's why. Because he's like, look, he's the head coach, and there's nothing I can do about that. And all it would do is hurt Notre Dame. And there's a lot of Oscar, am I correct? There's a lot of alums that feel the same way and have for a while.
I would say over 90% of us, bro.
Yeah. Well, Lou Holtz too, based on his comments, like he felt that way the whole time too, but he never really said anything, negative publicly. Here's another part of why Coach Freeman, in our opinion, will be great. There was never any real relationship with former players of different eras. You look at what Saban does at Alabama. You got guys as far back as, God, I don't know. I'm pretty sure if my former teammate and
and Hall of Famer, the late great Derek Thomas was alive, he would be on the sidelines at Alabama, because that's important to them. That's important to the longevity and the lifeblood of the program. You didn't really see a lot of guys other than the guys Coach Kelly coached in prior seasons, prior years on the sideline. You didn't see a lot of my guys. I mean, we showed up. We typically showed up at Lee Beckton's tailgate outside. You didn't see us on the sidelines, a lot, hanging out and being there and supporting. We have perennial support in Brian Radigan, Dr. Radigan, who's the team doctor who was on our football team. And we played together for 3 seasons, but just to come back and be a part of it, to be a part of the environment. I think Coach Freeman, having been a former player, I think he has a different grasp of what that locker room is like, what the locker room needs, and what the football community needs, and what football alumni, what we're looking for in terms of our involvement. So I'm excited to see what happens. I really think we upgraded, as I said, all my teammates do, and we can't wait, man. We just can't wait to see what happens.
So I'm gonna say something. Actually, let me phrase it. So look, Oscar, I have a question for you. All right. So what I'm trying to find out from you is if you feel that Coach Freeman appreciates Notre Dame and what makes it different. And is that important to you for the next head football coach at the University of Notre Dame?
Well, let me tell you, being a guy from Florida, Notre Dame is all about family, and our family is really important, and being with our family is Driz, you always suck me in, man. You always get me. Leopards and spots, man. That's all you can say, man. I'm pretty sure I had the same reaction as everybody else seeing that video. Like, what in the world are we looking at? I was waiting for the punchline, honestly. I was kind of waiting for the punchline.
Yeah.
But I really believe that Coach Freeman is going to be great for us. He's going to be great for our Notre Dame family. Good luck to Coach Kelly, man. I mean, say what you want about him. He did, manage to become the winningest coach in Notre Dame history. I don't know what, maybe he was waiting for that. I don't know. But I just find it funny that he's talking about winning national championships in 12 years. That never happened here. So, yeah.
I don't think because he embraced. I think the problem that I have with him is that I think, and this is what's different about Marcus Freeman, and you saw it in the Zorich interview this summer. If you're going to win at Notre Dame, you have to embrace what makes Notre Dame unique, not blame those unique aspects for what is holding you back. That's the difference between Lou Holtz and Bob. Well, one of the many differences being like a Lou Holtz and a Bob Davie or a Lou. And that's what I always gave Charlie Weiss respect for. Charlie, for all his faults, never blamed Notre Dame for why he didn't succeed. At least
he was a Notre Dame guy.
Right.
He was a Notre Dame guy. Right. Although he didn't play, he was there. I mean, he was a manager, but he was there, and he knew. And I think the great thing, I had an opportunity to meet Coach Freeman over the summer. My son came in and did one of the defensive camps, and man, he makes you feel like you're the only person in the room when you're having a conversation with him. That's a gift. That's a real gift. There's no side to side eye movement. He's not looking around you at someone else. He's engaged. He's having the conversation with you. That means a lot because it doesn't happen a lot these days. So.
And I know, Oscar, you're limited on time, but there was a couple questions that people had asked that I thought would be better for you to answer as someone who played because look, I played Division III football. Vince played high school football. Yeah. Like, it's different than playing at Notre Dame, right? And you get the institution is better, but this is a take that I think, because the phrase players coach is being thrown around.
Yeah.
And that can mean two dramatically different things. So this is a great question from John Duffy. And I think because you've been around him in a coaching environment, but also in a one-on-one environment, you're a Notre Dame grad. So this is a great question. He says, I have a bias on players coaches that they can be too chummy, which I think is fair. What makes Freeman different than some others who make a better friend than a respect-driven disciplinarian leader?
Right. Well, I think there's a couple of different things that come into play with that question. One, first of all, great question. But a couple of things come into play with that. One, different generation of athlete. We were more the disciplinarian types. We were kind of the guys that, coach would say, run into the wall. It was like, okay, we would ask, just boom, and run into the wall. I think these guys are a lot more educated in terms of what's around them, what's expected of them, what they need from the university. And I think when you say players coach now, I think it's more along the lines of what this person can do to support the players. Not that he's going to be their buddy, not that he's going to be their friend. And I think it's also on the flip side of that, the players have that respect for him. I mean, he has a resume. He was a 5-star athlete. He went to the Ohio State University. He played on Sundays. So he's walked that same walk that they've walked, that they're walking. He's been where they want to be. So I think that gives him a little bit more freedom in terms of how direct he can be with them and how far he can push them because they know he's done it. So I think when you say players coach, it's not about being friends. It's about, okay, this guy's walked the walk that I'm on right now.
So we have the Oscar McBride seal of approval for Marcus Freeman as the next head coach. At the
Yes,
University of Notre
sir. Yes, sir. Bang bong.
Which means we're going to be seeing Oscar on the sidelines more often.
Yes.
That's what's going to happen.
Yes.
Now I'm trying, man. I've got my own Notre Dame football team to coach here in Riverside, California, but I will do my best, especially on bye week, to get back and support my brothers at Notre Dame. And Tris, we're going to the range, man.
Yes, next time you're in town, man. I'm telling you. I was just telling my wife, I got all this ammo. I need to get some work in. I put in work here in a little bit. I've been able to get out there, but I've been waiting on you, man. So
I'm in, brother, for sure. Next time I'm back.
All right, thank Oscar. Have a good one, buddy.
All right,
take care.
Take care.
Oscar.
See you, Vince. We'll see you guys next time.
You bet.
So that was Oscar McBride. I wanted to get him on today. Normally we don't do that kind of thing on a day like today, but Oscar has been a very frustrated Notre Dame alum for a little while, and he is very excited. Very, very excited.
Well, and I think he made a really good point that 90+% of the people that he talks to, which obviously, all these guys have group messages and all these things with former players and their teammates and everything. They're all on board, and they were all honked off at the way they've been treated the last few years. I mean, those that's not my opinion. Those are just facts. They're not. They weren't happy. But they have enough respect for the university where they're not just going to come out and publicly say it, right? I mean, that's just not who they are. That's not who, I hate this phrase because Michigan people use it, but like Notre Dame guys, that's not what they are. And I think that speaks volumes. But now that the regime has changed, you're hearing all these people come out and give their, real, true opinion on the way things were going. And we're even seeing local media coming out with how they really felt about things.
Yeah, it's like the local paper did that. It's like, well, then you didn't do your job.
I'll completely agree with you. Yeah,
your job isn't to be buddies with the head football coach. Your job is to provide analysis to fans, not buddy up to the football coach and get information. That kind of bothered me.
But it's true. Eggshells are walked on so that they think that they get more access. And
Screw that.
Whatever.
We'll never be that at Irish Breakdown. We never have been that at Irish Breakdown. No. And we won't be that way for Coach Freeman either.
No, absolutely not.
I love this hire, but when he does things well, we'll praise him. And when he doesn't do things well, we'll be critical, just like we've always been.
Here's the difference. And I truly believe this, and I have no personal evidence of this being the case. If Marcus Freeman was sitting in the room with just the two of us and we were talking, right? We were just chatting. And I know if we asked him the question, he would say, look, it's your guys' job to keep me accountable. You know what I mean? And not that he's reading our stuff. That's not what I'm saying. But like he understands what our job is, and he's not going to take it personal. Like because we're not going to come at him personally.
Right.
So I do really think that is the case. I really do. We do have a couple super chats I want to grab here real quick from Savage. Thank you very much. See, Marcus Freeman didn't need a hype video like BK did. ND was just stunting on them Tigers.
Go Tigers.
So yeah, no question. They didn't need a hype video that was completely faked, which is hilarious, by the way. Hilarious.
I got to pull this up real quick.
Please do.
Michael Scarn. Thank you, Oscar. Be well, my friend. I just love the fact that he made his name Michael Scarn. Anyone that watched The Office gets that reference. It's the name of the character in the novel that Michael Scott wrote.
Oh,
the secret agent guy. So
that is hilarious. Yeah. And then there's a super chat right underneath that from John. Thank you, John. He goes, I give a 5 spot just for having the privilege of hearing 87's accent.
Yeah,
that was great.
Because Oscar's from the country part of Florida, so like he's been out of there for a long time, so his accent isn't still there. But yeah, Oscar's country, so he can spot a fake accent, from a mile away. But so can anyone with that fake accent that we saw the other day.
Yeah, no doubt.
But yeah, so Vince, that's this is something. I mean, just from players that I know that I've talked to. There's a lot of this in the Notre, and that's part of the reason I wanted to bring Oscar on, because I know that he's not alone. He's not a unique voice. Oscar and I have talked a lot in the past about, and he even wrote a couple of articles a couple years ago for Irish Breakdown about some things going on in our world. But I sat in the basement with him one time. It's just me, him, and a couple. Another Notre Dame player who's a legend Notre Dame, and just talking about it. And you just hear their opinion of things in the last 20 years. And when they hear that, well, Notre Dame can't win, and the academic, and it's like they view it as a slap in the face, because you're like, wait a minute, like you don't think we had to have good grades to get in Notre Dame? You don't think we had to go to class when we went to Notre Dame, right? Like that bothers them, because it's false. The difference was Lou Holtz used that as motivation. It was nobody's working as hard as you. They don't have to go to class. They don't have to do this. That's going to make you tougher, going to make you better. And that's what all the former players have expressed to me. Now, there were players who didn't go to class, just like there are now. That's always been the case. But that's good to me. That is going to be the thing that I think a lot of Notre Dame alums and former players are going to be excited about, is whether he wins or not, Marcus Freeman won't use excuses as to why he doesn't succeed.
Look, we have made no bones about the fact that we love Lou Emoji and everything that he was and is. And I got to pull this up. He's from Adam. He says, "What would Lou Emoji's reaction be with all this drama? He probably had a hand in the Freeman hire." I miss Lou.
Yeah,
we all
so
do.
We.
Believe me, we all do. And if there was a divine intervention of any kind, then Lou Emoji had something to do with it. I'll say that.
I won't pretend to speak for Lou,
right?
But I just know that Lou loved Notre Dame. He was very first class and professional with how he portrayed that. But Lou loved Notre Dame, and Lou would have appreciated having a coach at Notre Dame that embraced Notre Dame's uniqueness. I can say that with full certainty from many conversations we had, is that's one of the reasons Lou loved Lou Holtz. It's one of the reasons he loved Ara Parseghian, is because they embraced what made Notre Dame great.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know this, but I feel like Lou would have really liked that about Marcus Freeman. I don't know what he would have thought about the hire, or if this was the right move, or if he would have been concerned about the experience. I don't know any of that, but I think he would have really enjoyed and appreciated that Marcus Freeman looks at Notre Dame as special. And I don't think Brian Kelly ever embraced Notre Dame as special. So that to me is going to be that's something I think he would have.
Absolutely
would have loved. And John Climax says it too. Would have loved to hear Lou's take on this. Rest in peace, Lou. Lou. Rest in peace, Lou. Agree.
No
That would have been fun.
There's two down that I want to get to. Peter, I think this is a really good question. Why doesn't Notre Dame hire coaches who love the school like Marcus Freeman does? If the last 3 days haven't shown you the guys that they kept on staff don't love Notre Dame, I think many of them had an opportunity to go someplace else and get paid more, and they chose to stay at Notre Dame. Now, whether that's loyalty to Marcus Freeman, whether that's a love for the university, I think it's a combination of all of those things. And I think the guys that were kept, that exists.
But I'll say this, though. I don't think all those guys loved Notre Dame when they got here. I think it was a job.
And that's fair.
Right? Like,
that's
do you
fair.
think Mike Elson came with Brian Kelly to Notre Dame because he loved Notre Dame? He went to Michigan.
Came with Brian Kelly because he was going with Brian Kelly.
He's grown to really some guys embrace it.
Yes.
And some guys don't.
Right.
And I think that's the guys that do. Lou Holtz, Lou Holtz loved Notre Dame, but that's not why he won. He won because he had other attributes, but part of the success was built around the fact that he embraced what made Notre Dame unique. Brian Kelly spent too much of his career pushing back against it. And today, you now have a coach that I don't think is going to do that. Now, will that mean different results? We're going to find out over the next few years, right? I don't know. It's going to be a fun ride to find out. That's the thing I'm looking for.
Question.
That's the thing I'm looking for.
Matt's got a question here. Any word on legitimate potential additions via the transfer portal? So many things have to happen before Notre Dame is going to start looking in the transfer portal. You got to find out who's coming, or who's coming back, who's leaving. All of those things take into account what you're going to do potentially in the transfer portal. So that's not a topic of, maybe it's a small topic of conversation for guys that are leaving, but for the most part, that's something that they're going to address after they figure out what the numbers are and all of those different things. Because remember, 85 is the limit again, as it was not that way this past year. So numbers are important. You got to see what you've got open, what you don't. So all of those things are part of the discussion.
We got another super chat that just came up.
Perfect. Yep. Andrew, thank you very, very much for the super chat. If Brian Kelly would have stayed, do you think Marcus Freeman would have been poached for another one of these open coaching jobs? Yes, I do. Well, let me take that back. If everything would have stayed kosher and Brian Kelly did not leave, I think Marcus Freeman stays at least for one more year.
Yeah.
I do think that. So I want to retract my initial, because all I can think of right now is Brian Kelly leave. Once Brian Kelly left, Marcus Freeman wasn't coming back unless he was the head coach. That I do believe. But if everything stayed the same, I think the staff stays the same for the most part moving into next year.
Yep. I think he would have still been here. I've said this all along. I think Marcus Freeman was going to commit to Notre Dame for at least 2 years. At least 2 years.
Yeah.
Now, if Oklahoma would have offered him the head coaching job, would he have taken that? Probably. That's a big time job.
Absolutely.
But I think Marcus Freeman came to Notre Dame with the intention of this. Look, let me just say, careful with what I can say here. I'll just say this. He came to Notre Dame with the thought of this being an option. And that played a big role in why he came.
Yeah.
There was no promise of this being the job. There was no guarantee. Jack Schwarber didn't promise him a thing. But it's more about what he wanted as opposed to what was promised. And I think that matters.
And that's having faith in yourself, right? I mean, having faith that, hey, if I do a good job, I'm going to have an opportunity here, and I love that about him. And again, that's one of the things I love about his recruiting. He has faith in himself. He has confidence in himself to go out and do it.
Yeah.
So that's
and I think that's something I'm interested in seeing the staff, because I can assure you that no matter what contracts that Mike Elson and I'm telling you this on good authority from multiple sources, Mike Elson and Tommy Rees left a good chunk of money on the table to stay at Notre Dame. Now, look, Notre Dame stepped up and made it work for them.
Competitive. Let's say it made it competitive. I mean,
right. Yeah. But they both left I've been told, especially Elston, they left some money on the table, some legit money on the table because of their love for Notre Dame. And you're going to have a staff filled with a lot of guys. Now, it's not going to be all, because they've got 4 coach spots to fill. But, if you talk about Tommy Rees, you talk about, Chris Watt, if he comes, you talk about Marcus Freeman, Mike Elson. And look, I haven't heard a single thing about Mike Mickens doing anything other than let's go get the best guys, right? Again, because a lot of them are Midwestern guys.
Right.
You know, that they understand that there's a different Midwestern attitude. I mean, all parts of the country have different attitudes, not better, not worse, just different. And I think that they understand it. I think they understand it. And I think that they have been especially prone to quickly falling in love with what makes Notre Dame different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think and if the guy at the top is setting that standard and
Yes.
demanding excellence in everything you do, then of course the guys underneath him are going to. And that's something I'm curious to see is how, the biggest difference that Marcus Freeman can make as a head coach in recruiting isn't necessarily the job he does as a recruiter, although that'll matter. It's setting the standard of excellence and work and demand of volume of your time, your emphasis, this needs to be committed to this, and then holding people accountable for the job they do on the recruiting trail. That's going to be something that I'm hoping that we see. I think we'll see, because nobody does something well and doesn't demand that other people put in the same work. No boss is going to say, I'm cool with my employees working less than me. Right.
Right.
Or, you know what I mean? Like nobody does that. It's like, hey,
Right.
if I'm doing this, then this is the standard I expect for all of us. Right. And that to me is going to be the biggest impact that Notre Dame will have when it comes to him. So, but Vince, that's going to have to be it. I actually have to run. So I have a little bit of a family thing coming up here, and then you've got to get ready for the games.
Yep.
But hey, look, we appreciate everyone. This has been such a fun week, such an incredibly fun week. And hit the like button, hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell, because you never know when we may have do a show. But we are going to do a post-game show tomorrow. We don't know when. It's going to be later in the evening after some of the games have shaken out. So it'll be about some of the games that have gone on and how Notre Dame's playoff chances have improved or not improved. And so that's why you need to hit the notification bell. Hit the subscribe button, the notification bell. We'll do a show tomorrow night. And then we will do a show on Sunday afternoon after the playoff committee makes their decision. So we'll talk about – that shows
at noon.
Yeah, that shows at noon. We will do ours probably about 12:30, 1 o'clock. I'm just not sure the format.
They're going to draw it out. So it may not be as quick as it is on Tuesday.
Once we find out who the 4 are plus Notre Dame's destination.
Right.
So, yes. And then Jay Wiki says, let's get a night where Vince and Brian get drunk and talk football. The next time I get drunk and talk football, or get drunk period, will be the first time I get drunk. So you won't see that. We're not the type of place that actually does drunk post-game shows. If you want that, there's another place for that. Jay Wiki, but yeah, that won't be the thing. Now I may be like super animated at night, like drinking, because I've had 7,000 Mountain Dews during the day.
Yeah, right.
But no, we don't need alcohol to have fun and talk ball. So,
now, somebody did put in the chat earlier, which I thought was interesting, kind of related to this. Not that we're going to get drunk, because that's not what we do, but doing a tailgate at the Ohio State game next year. I might be on board with that.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We are going to do a lot more tailgates next year. Yeah, now they're not always going to all be food, but people just say, "Look, we just want to hang out and talk ball."
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that we're seriously contemplating just doing a Notre Dame, an Irish breakdown tailgate at all the home games next year. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, that's what we're leaning towards.
Who knows what next year holds? I mean, who knows?
Right. So as long as we're allowed to have tailgates and all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah, who knows? But yeah, so that's where we are. But hey, everybody, great week from all of you all. Huge crowds, tons of fun.
Thank you.
Thanks to Oscar McBride for coming on the show, and it's gonna be a fun weekend, y'all. It's gonna be an exciting weekend. Check out irishbreakdown.com. Check out my cheering guide. It has the times, the channels, the spreads, and who you need to root for from all the games this weekend. So for Vince, that guy, I'm Brian. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for your patience with my Southern accent today. Had a lot of fun, and we'll talk to you all again very, very soon.